Alice sees a blue night with bright rays of the moon. It would seem nothing unusual, when suddenly a wind piercing the body blew, transmitting a strange smell. Such an unusual smell, the whole body stood on end. All the senses were sharpened. Alice had not felt so amazing for a long time. Delicious, the heroine thought. Inhaling even deeper, she realized that this smell belongs to the immortal. Such an amazing smell only they have. I will become immortal if I eat his body. I will live forever, Alice thought. She was so excited by this smell that her whole body turned red. She wanted to eat it. The smell comes from this temple. You need to hurry so that he does not escape. Saying this, she rushed towards the temple. At this time, an absolutely exhausted young man was lying on the floor of the temple, and was just thinking about how to have a snack with a lamb, or a bear's paw. This young man was Jason. He is a loser from another world. He was moved to the world of immortals. But unfortunately, all his meridians are blocked. Due to this he cannot cultivate. However, he was endowed with an immortal body. I'm so sick of everything. To hell with it. I've had enough. The main character thought, shouting about why other people enjoy their lives, but he survives, and then through the scroll. Damn God, you don't have a heart, can't you just kill me with lightning? Jason shouted, when suddenly lightning struck near him. Well, to hell with you, the hero thought, and exhausted went to sleep on the cold floor of the temple. Nothing worse can happen. Closing his eyes, the main character said, Sir, would you like to spend this beautiful spring night with your servant? Alice asked. This made Jason's body shudder. He did not expect anyone to be able to get into the temple, because the temple is intended only for people who came here from another world, where nothing can threaten their lives. The main character shouted, Who are you? Jumping up and moving away from Alice. But she continued to approach him closer and closer. When suddenly she kissed him, Jason fell into a stupor from this, but could not resist it. He was shocked that Alice showed some interest in him. The young man was surprised that a woman could knock him to the ground, because every man should be able to stand up for himself. The main character shouted, pushing the woman hard in the shoulder. Alice could not stay on her feet, fell to the ground. Oh, what a cute foam it was! And you turn out to be a naughty boy, the girl replied, blushing even more with excitement. Alice jumped on Jason again, knocking him to the ground, to which the hero shouted, Stop, not so fast. Let's talk first, to which Alice replied, Why wait if your servant can't stand it anymore? Let me eat first. And yes, are you a monster or a human? The guy shouted in surprise at the top of his voice. Of course it's a monster, Alice replied, showing her true gloomy appearance. The young man immediately had memories in his head of how his grandfather said that he had put a seal on the temple. Monsters and demons would not be able to pass, so he can only wait until he returns, and they are not afraid of anything. The girl, taking the guy by the face, said, Immortal body, grant it to me, starting to get closer and closer to Jason. Suddenly Alice bit the boy mercilessly on the shoulder. Blood splattered all over the temple. The young man could not even move. He was surprised that a monster could enter the temple. His grandfather deceived him, he thought. Am I going to die again? Jason thought, I've been running, hiding, saving my skin for about 3 years, and all in vain? The main character gritted his teeth. When suddenly someone's voice began to sound in his head, it was a system alert. When cultivation suddenly began, the hero uttered, throwing the monster a few meters away with his powerful aura. How did you do that? Alice asked pityingly. Jumping back even more, she felt an incredible strength inside this young man. Now it's my turn to attack. Come on, let's see my new strength, the hero replied, starting to cultivate. The monster in the guise of a girl began to laugh. Because what could harm her, she thought. The boy, can you beat me? All your past attacks only tickled me. Alice smiled maliciously as she said this. It's better to pretend to be dead and let me eat you. I'll try not to hurt you, Alice shouted, jumping towards Jason. But the boy had already finished cultivating invulnerability within a radius of 2 meters. He swung an ordinary fist. The girl was surprised that the guy wanted to hit her, as it seemed to her, with an ordinary fist. When suddenly the blow hit her, a divine glow of light orange color appeared, which did not leave even a speck of dust from Alice. The divine glow was so strong that it struck even the heavens. Jason was surprised and even at first could not believe that it was his strength. How could I hit with such force? Are you sure this isn't a dream? The guy asked himself. Suddenly, a system alert appeared in the guy's head again. which said that the owner had killed a triple sky level monster, and for this he received 10 area points, after which the alert added that every 100 area points increases the invulnerable area by 1 meter. Now the invulnerability radius is 2 meters. Can it really increase? If the area covers the entire continent, does that mean that I will rule it? The young man thought, imagining his dream. The system alert added that the owner would have to study the methods of raising the level on his own, which the main character did not like, because there would be no hints. Okay, I'll study the whole system, the guy said and began to fall to the ground. But before that you need to eat, Jason said, falling exhausted on the ground of the temple. There was a huge hole in the roof of the temple from the most powerful divine blow, and dark clouds parted in the sky, showing bright rays and the heavenly kingdom. What the hell is going on in heaven? What is this terrifying energy? Did the legendary artifact get to the lower world? The inhabitants of the lower world wondered. The storm was saturated with some kind of force. The lightning did not stop beating. No one understood how the artifact could get to the lower world. During the battle between Jason and the monster, after cultivating the divine strike, the heavenly world shuddered. The blow reached the armory tower where the great sword of the main deity was sealed. The seal was broken and the sword was able to get out of the tower, shining with a light aura. 12 immortals! Your time has come! Shouting one of the guardians of the tower, he began to cultivate. Multicolored auras began to appear in the sky, flying towards the tower. These were the great 12 immortals who were responsible for the order in the heavenly kingdom. They appeared at the request of the guardian. Greetings, immortals, Calvin said with pride, then bowed to them. The eternal sacred vessel sealed in the Tower of Precious Swords was attacked by an unknown, and is now lost in the earthly world, Calvin said. By the power granted to me, I order you to bring him back at any cost. The keeper shouted with an evil look. How ashamed of the grandfather's temple, the main character said, thinking about how he wanted to eat. Or maybe eat some earth to fill your stomach? Jason said with a paranoid face. What kind of land? Have they really reached the point of eating earth in the 21st century? I'd rather die, the guy shouted, throwing a pot of earth into the sky. But after all, the old man built such a structure in this temple that no evil spirits can pass through it. But this woman could, and yet what's the matter? The hero said thoughtfully. But now is not the time to think about it. After all, I do not have the necessary skills to understand it. The old man will get into trouble because of the broken temple, and I am not able to help him. The boy sighed and said it. The main character noticed that there was some kind of sphere with a shade of yellow around him. Is it really a divine sphere? He thought. I wonder if I try to get out of it, it will follow me. If so, then I will be invincible. As soon as Jason tried to get out of it, his body became exhausted and began to break. He felt fear. The young man returned inside the sphere as quickly as possible, and was surprised that he could not even get out of this sphere. How scary, the main character thought. It's so cold and scary here to get out of the sphere, the guy said. It turns out that the protective sphere does not follow the owner. Just think about where such a bug in the system comes from. Jason asked, hoping for a response from the system. In addition to the task of filling your stomach with at least something, the most important thing now is to find ways to expand the sphere, the guy said. If I recklessly leave the protective sphere, not to mention the destruction of demons, I'm afraid that I will immediately be torn to shreds by 100 ghosts, the protagonist added in a decline. When suddenly a fallen girl in strange clothes appeared in the sky. Ah, it hurts! She cried, falling right next to Jason. The guy was surprised and scared by this turn of events. The great elder of the evil dragon cave appeared in front of the main character. He proudly said, Amelia, be honest with me. Don't run away from me. Otherwise I will kill you. Since you're so clever, then try to kill me. Let's see how my dad will deal with you. Shouting, the heroine jumped back. And monks are fighting, and mortals are suffering, Jason said in a quiet, trembling voice. With tears in his eyes, Jason thought that he would finally satisfy his hunger. Hey, what's a mortal doing here? Amelia shouted in a surprised voice and looked at the main character. This temple belongs to my grandfather. He will not be happy about your visit here. So get out, the guy said in an angry voice. The girl was surprised by such an evil aura. They showed up here, started their hubbub, and grandfather and I only eat the Holy Spirit here. So quickly give us food to compensate grandfather, the young man said, looking at Amelia and the great elder. Amelia was even more surprised. asking in a surprised voice, "Did you decide to die?" Man, dare you provoke the Grand Elder? Yes, I see you're a poor man, looking for death," the elder said in an angry voice, grabbing Amelia by the head. "In the next life, be reborn as an animal and hold your filthy tongue, great dragon spirit cultivation," the man shouted and attacked the main character. Jason became scared, and he covered his face with his hands, when suddenly a sphere appeared and protected him from the attack of the Dragon Elder. "Trash, I haven't even decided that I want to kill you yet, and you really want to kill me already? Do you think I can't fight back?" The guy answered the attack. Alice and the Dragon Elder were surprised, because they did not understand what had just happened. The attack was stopped in an instant. As he did it, they thought, "Yes, just a mortal. He has no reason and strength to block my attack. I can understand it, even when he dodges. No, you can't hide from me. The only possible result is death," the Great One said convulsively, adding, "I have been fighting for several decades, killing many people. Scarred man, I'm standing right in front of you. Try to kill me if you can," the main character said with a grin on his face, showing the middle finger. "I don't care who you are and what you're going to do. I'm much stronger than you. Die," the man with the scar shouted, starting to cultivate. A scarlet aura resembling the color of blood appeared around him. The guy just smiled, because nothing can harm him within a radius of 2 meters. "Your life and death completely depends on me," said the main character. "Show me all your strength. Attack with your strongest attack. Nothing can hurt me," the guy said with an even more terrifying grin in his eyes. "Haha, a weapon of the 3rd rank, incredibly sharp, the most ordinary mortal, also a beggar who dared to use a corporeal shell, simply found his own death," the elder shouted in a powerful voice. "You're funny though," Jason said, grabbing the sword with 2 fingers, adding, "Is that your mighty sword? You can't shake my resilience." Amelia was surprised, because the mighty sword of the great dragon elder was stopped with only 2 fingers without any cultivation. And the elder himself was surprised. He did not understand how an ordinary mortal could stop such a powerful blow without using any artifact and without cultivation. "Mousetail juice, think well about it in the next life," the main character said with a smile, breaking the great sword into several parts. From the breaking of the sword, the elder's soul was broken, and Jason, using banal cultivation, finished him off by throwing him back. Suddenly, a system alert appeared in the hero's head. The owner destroyed the triple sky with a golden core. The monk receives 500 points of the value of the sphere. You can exchange the current 510 points of the city's value for 500 points of expansion of the protective sphere by adding a system alert. The protective sphere expanded by 5 meters. The system alert finally added, "I hope that the owner will continue to work hard to get more sphere points." With joyful tears in his eyes, Monk Jason began to dance. Amelia was surprised and did not understand what was happening. The great dragon elder was destroyed by an ordinary mortal? Or is this monk the great master of this mountain? Alice asked, to which the main character only looked at her. "I report to the elder, the 9 Swords sect suspects that a sacred treasure has descended to earth, so the disciples of the 9 Swords sect were sent to search, but the rest of the disciples were killed by him. Only I survived. If not for you, I would definitely have been caught by him," Amelia said. "Great, she's not his accomplice, so you can relax," Jason thought, exhaling. "The man with the scar is dead. Catch his rings. His mark on the ring has disappeared. It does not belong to him now. It can be opened," said the main character, throwing the ring to the girl. With a joyful face, Jason grabbed the chicken and started jumping, shouting, "Finally I can fill my stomach." Alice fell to her knees. The impact of her knees was so powerful that the walls of the temple cracked. The girl screamed, kneeling and clasping her hands together. "Senior, you saved me. It means that we are destined for each other, right?" said the girl with pink hair, looking pityingly at the main character. The young man was surprised by this turn of events, because just a few hours ago he did not see the meaning in life, and now he is already being praised. Amelia grabbed the young man's cloak with both hands and said with tears in her eyes, "Senior, please take me as a student. I will try very hard. I am grateful to you for saving me. Let me stay with you. I will do all your errands. I need to take care of my elders." "Get off, woman. I was just lucky to stumble upon you, nothing more," the guy said, pushing the girl away. "I'm a loser, what can I teach her?" Jason thought for a moment, and asked Amelia, "What qualities do you have to be honored to be my student?" Looking with a gloomy look. The girl was surprised by such a question. She replied that she knows how to cook delicious. The main character said, "You and I are connected by fate, the elder will give you a chance. But I will hardly have to accept a new student. After passing the exam I will give you the opportunity to train with me." To which Amelia bowed and said, "Thank you for such a chance, senior." When suddenly a system notification appeared in the head of the main character, which said that for the new connection between the master and the student, he received a reward in the form of 100 points of the value of the sphere. "Master, how long have you been taking a bath?" Alice asked Jason, closing her nose and wrinkling her face. "Student, take that trough and take it outside in the rain and wait until it is fully filled," the young man said, pointing at the bucket with his finger. "Do I really stink like that?" The kid asked himself with a surprised face. He felt ashamed. Amelia took a huge trough and carried it outside in the rain. Looking at the sky, she felt an aura as dark as night. The girl was shocked, because henceforth until that moment she had never felt or seen such a dark aura. Looking closer, she saw emerald green eyes looking at her through the foliage. Such eyes she had only seen in textbooks. Rushing to the master, she shouted, "Master, our business is bad. There is a golden tiger hiding outside." Jason looked at her in surprise with his mouth full. "Apprentice, come hunt with me." Shouting the main character, he went towards the exit of the temple. At that moment, a golden tiger was hiding in the thicket. He was frightened by the strength of the young man. He was lured by a fragrant smell. After arriving, the tiger saw how an ordinary boy dealt with a ghostly monster and a great elder of dragons. The tiger was scared. The tiger wanted to leave the mountain, but the smell attracted him so much that he thought there was no way back, ran towards the temple. At this time, the main character stuck his hand out of the protective sphere, as the smell intensified and lured the tiger, saying, "Hey, tiger, how do you like this smell?" Amelia didn't understand what was going on, so she asked the master what he was doing. "How alluring he is, I can't resist." The great golden tiger, who was running towards the temple, spoke. The tiger started using an ancient cultivation that was supposed to finish off the main character with his companion, but Jason found the attack harmless. "The golden tiger, he's coming, he's going to attack us any minute," the girl screamed. But the main character only cared about the smell that could lure the tiger. As soon as the golden tiger got into the protective sphere of the protagonist, his cultivation disappeared, and the tiger himself rose into the air and could not move. He was surprised that his ancient powerful attack was so simply stopped. "Why do you have so much hostility? Is it just because you're hungry? It's a pity that you want to eat me, but you could be my pet," the young man said to the tiger. "Master, how did you do it without making a single move?" Amelia asked Jason with a surprised look, to which he replied, "Everything in its own time." "Amelia, I allow you to deal with him," the main character said to his student, to which she replied, "That's right," saluting. "It was the right choice to become an apprentice. I definitely need to stick to the master," the heroine thought. After attacking the tiger, she couldn't even scratch it. She was surprised at how strong the ancient beast's skin was. "Master, I'm sorry," the student said in a touchy voice. The master was surprised. "Give me the sword, I'll show you the difference between a master and a disciple," Jason said proudly. "Look carefully and learn," said the master, moving towards the golden tiger, pulling the sword to the side. Swinging the sword, a blue aura appeared, but he didn't cultivate, Amelia thought. The heroine was surprised by such a powerful and at the same time ordinary swing of the sword. At this time a system alert was pronounced in the head of the protagonist, which said that for killing the golden tiger, the owner would receive 800 points of the value of the sphere. "What a cool guy. Killed him with one blow," said the girl, who was looking at Jason with a loving look. "Disciple, you have to deal with the body of a dead tiger. Remember, if you want to learn how to kill, you first need to learn how to cut meat," said the master, throwing the sword towards the girl. "By the way, the tiger's genitals are quite rare and valuable things, so be sure to keep them for me and don't lose them," the main character clarified. The heroine replied in a surprised and awkward voice, "Okay, master." While Amelia was getting rid of the tiger's body, Jason was talking to the system alert in his head, asking the question, "All living creatures, what is it?" He received an answer that the owner would find out after he improved the temple to version 2.0. We'll have to spend points to improve the temple to 2.0, the hero thought, then added, to improve the version of the temple to 2.0, something started happening in the hero's head. He did not understand what was happening and how to act on it. When suddenly he heard that the system had been successfully updated, at the moment the temple version 2.0, the feature of all living beings, to which he replied in a shocking state, "Wow, this ability is so cool." The system alert added that now the host can summon a creature that can be controlled on the temple grounds. "Student, quickly bring me some grass," Jason shouted, looking in Amelia's direction. At this time, Amelia was butchering the tiger. She was surprised, because why would the master need grass? After giving her consent, she ran for grass. "Teacher, here is your grass," the student said, running in with the grass in her hands. Jason took the grass and began to cultivate over it, letting his mana into this grass. Meanwhile, the grass began to glow with the aura of an immortal, but then some kind of incomprehensible aura began to be felt in addition to the aura of the master. Amelia was shocked by what was happening. She could not contain her surprise. "Student, what are you doing?" the immortal monk said, to which Amelia asked the question, "Master, how did it happen that a completely ordinary grass began to glow with a blue aura and changed its color?" "Where are you in a hurry? Go sit aside and look," Jason replied, poking his hand in the girl's face. "I don't even know what will happen. How can I answer her question why the grass has changed color?" the monk thought, after which he poured even more mana into her. The student shouted, to which Jason gave a rude order to be silent. Suddenly, an incomprehensible body began to appear out of the grass, small, green, with wings. "My God, Master, you did it!" the student shouted, looking at the green creature in surprise. The green creature was afraid of the girl's screams and began to cry. She felt defenseless. Hiding behind Jason, he said, "What are you always shouting? Student, be silent." And then, the immortal said and began to compress the air with cultivation, adding, "Look, this is necessary to initiate you as a disciple. This pill contains the essence of life. Rather, take it, I'm giving it to you, so be sure to keep it," said the master, handing the pill to his disciple. Joyful Amelia pressed the pill to herself and shouted, "Thank you, teacher. Your student will not disappoint you, and will call you Little Firefly," Jason said, looking at the green creature. "The master is very cool. He was able to create a little fairy from just some grass," the student thought, looking at the master with an admiring look. After swallowing the pill, Amelia felt an incredible strength. It began to overflow her whole body. She was proud to be a disciple of such a powerful master. She could not restrain herself and released a powerful aura. "Am I the uplifter?" the girl asked the main character. In Jason's head, the system notification began to speak again that Amelia had risen from the 6th level of the laid foundations to the 7th. The owner receives 50 points of the sphere's value for this. The main character did not understand how it worked, why an ordinary pill increased Amelia's aura so much. At this time, the heroine was in meditation emitting a powerful aura stream. A system alert in the master's head told him that the student and the teacher are connected, and the stronger the student becomes, the stronger the teacher himself becomes. In this case, in the future I can get a huge number of students to increase the number of points for the sphere. What kind of useful ability I have? I wonder what kind of ability they will give me if I raise the temple one more level, Jason thought. When suddenly the main character felt an incredible aura that was approaching them with an incredibly great speed, but it did not emit hostility. Maybe it seemed to me, the young man thought. Suddenly, a sword emitting an ancient golden aura fell from the sky near her, breaking through the roof. "Master, isn't this a divine treasure that has fallen to us from the sky?" Amelia asked Jason. "Divine treasure, what is this?" the hero asked the girl, to which she replied that a huge black hole appeared in the sky last night. The father said that a divine sword had fallen from it, and now everyone in the neighborhood was looking for it. The main character came closer to the sword. He stopped issuing any mana releases. Taking hold of the handle, he pulled it out of the ground. "He seems so weak to me, and even rusty. He can try to fix it with the help of the power of all beings," the young man thought. As soon as the guy started using the power of all creatures, the sword shone with a yellow aura and began to emit divine mana. The little fairy was surprised. "Then hold it," the master said, throwing the sword in Amelia's direction, to which the student thanked him. As soon as Amelia took the sword in her hands, she felt the divine power that emanated from the sword. How frightening, the girl thought. Even such a terrifying strength doesn't impress the master. After all, is my master that strong? The girl thought, looking at the master with a surprised look. Master, you treat me so well, the student said with a pitying look, looking at the master. The girl looked at her teacher with a loving gaze, holding a divine treasure in her hands, after which she said, I need to become stronger as soon as possible. I must definitely listen and use all the instructions of the master. Let me show you what your teacher is capable of, Jason said as he began to cultivate. The student said in surprise, what is it? The main character was able to repair the temple in an instant, and return it to its former clean state. In the center of the temple there was a named circle showing that the temple belongs to our main character. When suddenly a shadow breaks through the ceiling, the roof of the temple is broken again. The members of the 9 Swords group are still alive, the Dragon Lair Lord said, when suddenly his companions descended behind him, also breaking only the repaired roof of the temple. Summon the great dragon elder to me, the Lord shouted, releasing an evil aura and showing his might in front of Jason and Amelia. Master, this is the Lord of the Dragon's Den. We are finished, the student shouted, but the master's look made her understand that Jason was angry. The members of the Dragon Lord's group understood why the sword chose this particular place. Because the spiritual aura here is simply teeming, it is huge here. When suddenly a sect of ghosts appears, and with them their master, the great Raoul, the thirst for blood in the temple becomes more and more. Surprised, the Dragon Lord said these two weren't a problem, but who would have thought that abnormal people would appear here? The roof of the temple was broken several times. Each time it was broken, the malice of the main character became more and more, and the aura of malice released by him leaked from his body. Heaven will not bless such freaks as you. I came here first, which means that all the loot belongs to my sect. Get out of here, Raoul, the Dragon Lord shouted, rushing towards Amelia, who had a sword in her hands. Is it really a man from the Dragon's Den clan telling me? Are you confident in your abilities and words? Raoul shouted, starting to cultivate. If you want to take everything here, why don't you talk to the owner of this place first? Jason said through clenched teeth. Amelia realized that the elder was very angry right now. And how dare you destroy the new look of my temple? Releasing his aura, the main character asked the Dragon Lord and the Ghost Master, the owner of the temple, is that you? Haha, don't make me laugh. Dragon hand cultivation, a muscular man shouted as he attacked the temple master. But Jason didn't even move. The attack was completely dispelled in a matter of seconds. What was the next to attack was the great master of ghosts. Raoul began to summon hungry monster skulls. How can such an asshole like you be the owner of such a place? This temple should belong to the Ghostbone sect, the Ghost Master shouted as he attacked the Immortal Master. No respect, Master, Amelia said through hysteria. But Jason said, I got the hint. God decided to give me glasses to improve the sphere, but they are not yet within the temple. What kind of attitude do you have? My master is one of the scariest creatures on earth. He was able to defeat the Golden Tiger with an ordinary swing of the sword. The student shouted in the direction of the Dragon Lord and the Ghostbone Master, to which Jason replied with a smirk on his face that it was true. Did you kill the Golden Tiger? Don't make us laugh, the Dragon Lord Christian said in a shocking voice. Well, he was surprised to see me, and do you want to repeat his participation? The main character asked Christian. I've seen so much in my life that you don't think I can figure out the usual tricks of mortal people? The Dragon Lord shouted. A completely inconspicuous mortal like you, the Lord said maliciously, releasing the flame from his body. I am the great Lord of the Dragon's Lair Christian. I have killed a huge number of people like you, which is even scary to say, said the great Lord, releasing a dragon aura. The number of mortals killed by me can reach thousands. And did you just say that you were able to kill some golden tiger? The Lord said contemptuously. Shut your mouth. The angry student shouted. Baby, don't think if you're a pretty girl, then I won't touch you. Master, he's a very bad person, I know that. Last night I was looking for a divine weapon together with people from the group. But then he suddenly appeared and killed all my members of the group. It was all his doing. He's a ruthless bastard. Pointing her finger at the Dragon Lord, Amelia shouted. Smiling, Christian showed with all his appearance that he was pleased, because he likes to be talked about like that. Bastard, die, the Dragon Lord said, attacking Amelia. But the attack was stopped by Jason, saying, Peaceful temple, submit to my control. Say goodbye to your seal. the immortal master said as he attacked Lord Christian. Suddenly, a system alert appeared, which indicated that the cultivation of the 3 intruders from the evil dragon's lair had decreased to the realm of purification. The sphere of purification is the lowest level of cultivation, after which the foundation of the golden core, the sphere of the nascent soul, is created, Jason explained to others. You can't beat a golden core realm practitioner, right Amelia? That's why I suppressed his cultivation before cleansing. Now you can handle it, right? Jason asked the student. You're a nascent soul practitioner, damn it, how did I not realize that right away, the Lord could barely say. Stupid, look how it turned out, what do you say now? Jason said, grinning. Amelia looked at her teacher with a surprised look and admired him. Go ahead, Amelia, I choose you. Jason shouted, to which Amelia replied, yes, master, I'll chop him into small pieces, I'll do everything in the best possible way, after which she jerked towards Christian. Dragon Lord Christian, I will avenge your brother and sister from the 9 Sword sect, die, Amelia shouted, pointing the divine sword towards the Dragon Lord. Even your father can't kill me, do you think you can do it? I am a Dragon Lord even if my cultivation is suppressed, so what? I can beat you to death even with my spatial rings, Christian shouted. Nonsense, prepare to die. Shouting this, Amelia approached the Lord. Suddenly, a treasure of the 4th stage of the golden rank appeared from the Dragon Lord's body, which had a powerful defense against attacks. Amelia let mana into the sword, attacked Christian's defense until the moment the sword collided with the defense. The Lord was confident in himself. But as soon as the sword came into contact with the defense, his face turned white. From the Lord standing firmly on his feet, only his shoes remained standing. No one from his lair expected such an outcome of events. Even Amelia herself was surprised by such a turn. This divine sword is just something. How scary it is to use it, the girl thought. What a terrifying power, this must be the divine treasure, and it's in their hands, the Ghost Bone Master said in a trembling voice. At this distance, I can easily kill Amelia and take away the divine sword, she won't even have time to notice. If everything works out, my sect will become great, Raoul said to himself and smiled. His smile was malicious. Only on his face it was possible to understand that he was up to something, and this alarmed Amelia. Suddenly, Raoul was covered by someone's aura, so powerful that he could not even move. I almost forgot about you, Hood, Jason said, casting a contemptuous glance. Raoul realized that if he had moved even a millimeter, he would already be dead. You all showed disrespect to my master, Jason's disciple said hysterically, looking at the ghost sect with a gloomy look. Come here, I'll chop everyone for my master. Amelia was still speaking hysterically. It would be best to retreat. The great ancestor will decide everything himself. Let's go. Everyone from the Ghost Bones sect said in one voice. Amelia shouted, still repeating, shooting a light aura into the air. The girl was able to kill several members of the sect, but some still managed to escape. A system notification appeared in Jason's head again, which said that the master's disciple was able to kill 3 golden core cultivators and received 1,500 sphere points for it. I really get sphere points for killing Amelia. Great, use sphere points, the main character said to himself. How about chopping every member of the ghost sect into small pieces? Their sect turns people into ghostly slaves. They are evil. After saying this, the girl began to swing her sword. Amelia, stop, the terrified Ghost Bone Master shouted. Falling to their knees, each of the sect asked for mercy from Jason and his companion. The Immortal Master and his disciple were surprised by this turn of events. Do you think I forgot what you just did? No conscience, or do you think I'm blind? Having looked with a contemptible look, the owner of the temple said, Let's kill him together, the Ghost Sect Master shouted as he attacked the Immortal Master. Great divine cultivation, Jason said, creating a divine stream in his hand. With just one swipe, he was able to kill every member of the sect, for which he received 450 sphere points. But the sect master Raoul was able to escape. But Jason was not going to catch up with him, because he would be able to bring free sphere points to him. Damn it, we have to let the Supreme Elder kill this kid personally and get the divine treasure. The great ancestor is here, Master Raoul said, then bowed. In the temple of the sect of ghosts, tension was felt in the air. Everyone was waiting with trepidation for the first words of the great ancestor. A powerful aura was felt from him. His face was calm. His gaze was cold-blooded. Everyone immediately apologized to the ancestor for their tardiness. Every member of the sect felt a terrifying pressure in the air. I descended to the lower world by order of the Lord, the ancestor said proudly, looking contemptuously at the monks, when suddenly the ancestor began to release a strong aura. His power resembled lightning, striking indiscriminately in different directions. Everyone was scared and shouted with one voice, "Ancestor, stop it!" They could not resist the ancient great ancestor. "Leave your stupid thoughts and focus on my words, otherwise I will kill you all," Ancestor Adam shouted. Everyone bowed trembling. They understood that Adam was not joking, saying only, "We obey the ancient ancestor," when suddenly Raoul jumped up and said in a trembling voice, "I know where the sacred sword is." "A sacred sword? Where is he located?" the ancestor asked excitedly. "In the temple of the immortals, great Adam," Raoul replied in the same trembling voice, looking with a frightened look at the ancestor. At this time, silence reigned in the temple of the immortals. Bright rays illuminated the territory of the temple. The fresh aroma of the sun was felt. "Delicious, master?" Amelia asked Jason, to which he replied, "Not bad, add more salt next time." The sphere of invulnerability is already 22 meters. Although the range of action has become longer, food is limited here, so I'll have to ask Amelia to go get it. When I first received the sphere, I was only invulnerable inside and could not control it. I could say I was an ordinary person, the immortal reason sitting on a chair. After one improvement of the sphere, I got the ability to control all living things inside, and my perception became sharper. Even if I am invulnerable, it's only inside the sphere. Outside I'm just an ordinary person who can't protect Amelia in any way. She still has the same low level of cultivation. Is it possible to somehow increase it? Jason continued to reason. The student at this time was feeding a little fairy created by the master from grass. They seemed very cute to the young man. Looking at the green fairy immortal, I realized that he has the ability to transform the life energy of everything, transforming ordinary grass into spiritual and even create a spirit. Then why don't I use this to improve her cultivation? The master said in a low voice, looking at the student with an excited look. Grabbing the student, Jason explained to Amelia that he wanted to try one technique on her. "Disciple, I know a way to improve your cultivation, but it will hurt a little at first. But as long as you endure it, you will feel so good, as if you are ascending to heaven. Do you want to try?" The young man said with a worried look. "Improve cultivation, painful, pleasant feeling, master, aren't we in too much of a hurry? This is my first time, it's not good, right?" Amelia asked frantically. The girl was excited, she could not even imagine what the master wanted to do with her. Her body was burning. "How shameful," she shouted, and started kicking her teacher. "Don't be afraid, Amelia, this should be the first time," Jason said. Gritting her teeth and closing her eyes, the girl thought that the master did not want to harm her, but only to make it better. "Master, do it!" The girl shouted in an excited voice, clenching her fists. "Start, but no, wait, pair cultivation can lead to death, teacher stop." Before he could finish it to the master, Jason touched her forehead. The master began to let his mana into the student's body. A light wind appeared from the contact of the two manas, and the girl's body began to shine. The young man asked in a worried voice. "It's tingling," the girl replied, twisting her face. "I have to make more efforts. Carefully feel the energy that I have directed into your body," Jason said in a hard intonation. The student could not believe that her master had such a strong flow. It filled her whole body. She was pleased. Jason folded the seal, after which he began to let even more of his mana into Amelia. "I can't take it anymore," the girl shouted. But the master was not going to stop, shouting for her to hold on. He began to let even more mana into her. The girl was excited. She could not restrain her emotions, because the master's mana passed through every piece of her body. Her whole body was burning with excitement. Her legs were twisting. Her face was burning. "Master, I can't take it anymore," the girl shouted with tears in her eyes. "Damn, her body is about to explode from an overabundance of energy," Jason thought, ceasing to cultivate over the student's body. But even after the cultivation stopped, Amelia's body did not stop releasing the aura. The girl kept repeating, "Master, stop, I can't do it anymore." The girl began to be overwhelmed with memories, her past, and she began to reason about what she had not achieved in the future. After all her reasoning, she shouted, "No, I can't die. I haven't become strong yet and I haven't inherited the sect. I can't die here, I have to live. I want to cultivate together with the master until the end of time. How can I die here? The girl also continued to reason. When lightning suddenly struck the master's protective sphere, she could not harm Jason. The master held his exhausted student in his arms. She was glad that she did not die. How are you, Amelia? The young man asked in a joyful voice, to which the girl replied, I coped, master. A thunderstorm hovered over the mountain. Lightning streams did not stop beating all over the mountain. Its color was unusually yellow. All the animals fearfully ran further away from the mountain. They all felt a powerful aura emanating from its top. A thunderstorm hovered over this huge mountain. Could it be because of a divine treasure? Lazy asked the other demon kings, to which Randy said, however, a very frightening phenomenon. At this time, Amelia was rising along the streams of lightning. Her aura was moving to another level. I've isolated the power of thunder tribulation and put it into you, so try to assimilate it as much as possible, Jason shouted after Amelia's elevation, spreading his arms. Has the storm subsided? A thunderstorm tribulation of this magnitude can really just evaporate like that. Unbelievable, Ricky told his companions. The streams of the thunderstorm only increased. In its center the demon kings noticed the silhouette of a girl. But after a while everything quieted down. After the thunderstorm, the demon kings went into the thick of things. They couldn't wait to see what was happening in the epicenter. Upon arrival, they saw a cultivating girl and a guy standing next to them, who noticed them immediately after arrival. This girl has outstanding abilities. She is a treasure of the human race. In the future she will become incredibly powerful, Lazy said, looking at Amelia. Amelia was promoted from Foundation Stage 6 to 7, for which Jason received 50 sphere points. Lazy, looking at the girl who was able to reach the 7th step of the foundation of creation at such a young age, could not restrain herself and rushed in her direction with the words, "This girl is my future student. Get out of the way. It's not so easy to find such a genius. I can't miss her. Disciple, your master is already coming." "Haha," Ricky shouted, overtaking the fox and the bull. But suddenly Lazy assumed her true form of a huge fox, thereby scaring Ricky for a split second. "Hey, are you serious?" The demon snake king asked the fox. Let's fight. Do you think I'm afraid?" "The winner takes everything, and the loser gets out for a month," Ricky shouted, also turning into his true form. Behind them, they heard a heavy growl. It was Randy. He also took his true form and thereby frightened the demonic snake and fox king. Amelia was surprised and alarmed by what was happening, but she was within the radius of the master's protective sphere. "You definitely deserve to be my student. Great job. You will be the one whose talent I will cultivate with my own hands. The breakthrough into the sphere of the nascent soul is no longer Tan's," Jason said, stroking his student on the head. "The Golden Core realm is the level of an elder of the Nine Sword sect, and I easily broke through," the disciple mused. "Here is the reward for your efforts. Use it wisely," said the great master, throwing 3 rings to his disciple. "Master, there's almost half of the Nine Sword sect's resources right there, and you're giving it all to me?" Amelia asked, to which Jason replied with a grin, "Of course I don't like this thing. As long as I am in the sphere of invulnerability, I can be compared to God. Besides, I cannot use those resources. At the moment my goal is to expand the sphere to the entire mountain, and these 800 points of the sphere will not be enough," the immortal said in a thoughtful voice. "Hey girl, look here," Ricky said in a hissing voice, to which Amelia immediately turned around. "You are demons," Amelia said in an anxious and trembling voice. "My name is Randy. I am the firstborn demon king. These golden pills are created from the essence of the body of a great demon. If you recognize me as your master, then they will become yours. Thanks to them you can break into the sphere of the nascent soul. No one will refuse such a temptation." The demon king Randy introduced himself. Amelia was shocked by the gifts offered, because in addition to Randy, Ricky also offered gifts. He offered a divine fruit. Lazy didn't take anything with her, so she said that she would accept the girl as her own daughter. Then she would become the young mistress of the Fox sect, and with this support she would be able to gain immortality. Ricky and Randy were very surprised by such words. "The chance to become immortal, my gift can't be compared to this, damn it. That's a liar," Ricky thought. "Come on, darling, come with me," said the Queen Leaves. To which Amelia replied in the negative. All the demon kings were surprised. They could not understand how someone could refuse such offers. There is no need, I already have a master. I will follow the master, not to mention becoming an immortal. Even becoming a god is easy for him. My master is the best, Amelia said with her head held high. The Fox King asked who was her master, to which Jason, after taking a couple of slow steps, said, "It's me." Randy got angry. He wanted to check if Jason was worthy of being a master of such a talented girl. Dark streams of mana began to come out of his body. The master is not an ordinary person. Without him I would not have become who I am now, the girl shouted. At this time, the Demon King Randy had already begun to attack Master Jason. He carried out the attack, gathering all his power in one finger. But the main character did not even move. The attack was stopped in an instant. As usual, all the Demon Kings were shocked by the strength of the guy. How about I try out the other Demon Kings as well? Jason asked in an ominous voice, looking at the other kings. With a smile on his eyes, the young man also began to collect mana on one of his index fingers. He wanted to show that the power of his fingers is much higher than the power of the demonic bull. The blow passed through, hitting one of the most powerful and strong bodies of demons. There was a noise. The release of so much mana raised the wind. With just one finger, he had injured the most powerful demonic body so badly. Ricky said convulsively. A cold sweat ran through his body. At this time the main character stood with a grin, looking towards the kings and showing them his index finger. It seems that he is no longer able to check. Would you like to try? The main character asked Ricky and Lazy, to which Lazy said in a surprised voice that this man surpasses her in many ways and refused. With his hand in his pocket, the Mountain Master asked the Demon Kings, "Do you think I'm qualified enough to be her master?" Amelia was hiding behind her teacher, falling to their knees and contorting incomprehensible faces. Ricky and Lacey answered in one voice, "The old one must be joking, we are not worthy to teach her." Picking up the divine fruit and handing it to our hero, Ricky said, "We apologize for disturbing the elder. Accept this divine fruit as an apology." Ricky and Lazy continued to kneel in front of the great master of the mountain. Jason asked the Snake King where he got this divine fruit, twirling it in his hand. Amelia squelched. Looking at the divine fruit held by the main character, she could not take her eyes off him. Drool dripped down to the ground. The young man noticed it and laughed. Handing the fruit to the girl, the hero said that she could eat it, but she had to give him the seed that was inside it. She was surprised that the master gave her such a valuable fruit. "Thank you, great master," the student exclaimed. She was grateful to her teacher for such a gift. Handing the seed to Jason, he looked at it, and just threw it on the ground, waiting for what was happening. But suddenly the earth shone with an orange divine aura. No one understood what was happening. Everyone was surprised by what was happening. The earth cracked. The master of the mountain quoted his grandfather, "To get a melon, I plant a melon to get peas. I plant peas to get a divine fruit. I think you guessed it yourself, gentlemen kings. At that time some kind of tree began to grow." "It turns out that I'm the fool here?" Lazy asked clumsily. The main character looked at the Demon Kings with a smirk on his face, raising his hand to his face and said, "However, one divine fruit will not be enough to compensate for the damage from your invasion. What should I do with you?" All three kings fell into a stupor. They understood that they could not oppose this master with anything. His strength was immeasurable. They immediately began to beg for mercy. "If you ask so, I will give you an easy choice with just 2 points. Either you will obey me or you will die. What do you say?" Still grinning, our main character said. Randy was wounded, so he could not kneel, although he tried, but Ricky and Lazy immediately fell to their knees and cried out in one voice, "We recognize the elder and are ready to serve him until the end of our days." Suddenly a thunderstorm appeared in the sky. Then Jason shouted, "Don't panic, it's just a small cloud, I'll take care of it." Lightning struck directly into the protective sphere under which all our heroes were. None of them understood why the lightning did not reach them, but the main character, without waiting for a long time, waved his hand and began to cultivate. Thunder tribulation began to cover the bodies of the Demon Kings. It began to harden their bodies, as well as heal their wounds. The degrees of elevation of each of the kings have reached black, which means that they have risen from the 6th step to the 8th. Jason sighed with relief, as he succeeded. "I used quite a bit of power to raise the 3 Demon Kings to the 8th level, and when I helped Amelia, I did not limit the flow of energy at all. I wonder what level she will have." Jason thought. At this time, Amelia had already started cultivating over the stone. But nothing was happening. Amelia didn't understand what was going on. She was upset. Could it be that Amelia is now immortal? Ricky asked the others. Everything is much simpler. In the lower world the highest level is the 9th. But this is not the limit. Now my student's level is above the 9th. And the talent stones simply cannot determine it, Jason reassured Amelia, waving his hand. As long as you follow me, it's not like an immortal body. Even immortality will be nothing to you, the main character said, waving his finger. After these words, all the 3 demon kings fell to their knees and began to praise, exalt, and idolize the young man. They were grateful to him that he appreciated them so much and forgave them for the attempted murder. Amelia still continued to stand in a stupor from such a powerful force of her master. At this time, the Ghostbone sect was waiting nearby. They saw the immortal master's disciple flying in the distance. Raoul watched the girl with trepidation. Amelia did not expect anything. She only thought that it would soon be dark and her master was most likely already hungry. She needed to return soon to feed her master. Amelia, I've been thinking about how to get the divine treasure so that the great master Jason doesn't interfere with me. Now it won't be difficult, Raoul said, rushing to attack the girl. The girl was scared. She didn't expect that the Ghostbone sect still exists. They surrounded her. After starting to cultivate, Raoul said, Haha, after I kill you and take the divine sword I will make you and your master ghost slaves. His evil aura sent shivers down the girl's back. Amelia was shocked by the master's strength. He became much stronger after their last meeting. However, the sword was able to protect her by releasing an aura of light orange color. Are you really in the Golden Core realm? How is this even possible? Just a few days ago you were only at the level of foundation creation, Raoul shouted, adding, she's only 18 years old, and she's already broken through to the Golden Core. She can't be left alive, she has a huge talent. Go to hell, said the Ghost Master, attacking the girl. Amelia picked up the sword and also began to cultivate to repel Raoul's attack. There was a collision of 2 powerful energies. In the air anyone could feel the power of both of them. The earth was shaking. I was able to block his attack only with the help of a sword, and I have almost no strength left. I need to return to the master as soon as possible, said a young girl, escaping from the sect of ghosts. Surprised, Raoul was furious. He did not understand how she was able to completely block such a powerful blow from him. At this time, the master and the demon kings were sitting and playing a game. There was anxiety in the air. Each of them was already hungry. They couldn't wait for Amelia's arrival. Haha, I'm sorry, it's so nice to feel superior. I won, Jason said, throwing the plate on the gaming table. Lazy was angry. She shouted at Randy that the master had won again because he hadn't laid out a single chicken. When suddenly Lazy felt Amelia's breathing getting weaker and weaker, she couldn't understand what was going on. At this time, Amelia was trying to escape from the ghost sect with all her strength. She had almost no energy left. She could not fight. The temple was already visible. She was almost there. There was just a little bit left for the student to be safe. But suddenly a huge ghostly hand appeared in the sky, which descended directly on the girl. She did not have time to escape, because the speed of the blow was incredibly high. The blow completely hit Amelia. Blood splattered on the ground. The girl was very badly injured. It's time to end this cat and mouse game. Now she's in my power. Even if she doesn't die, she doesn't have long to live. Take away the divine treasure and capture her soul to make her a ghostly slave, said the girl in the cloak and mask, looking at Amelia lying on the ground. The disciple of the immortal Master Mountain could not move. Her hair was disheveled. Her body was wounded. There was almost no energy left. She looked at Raoul with contempt. Look, die, said the master of the ghost sect, starting to collect energy in his right hand. Screams and groans rang out. Scarlet blood splattered. Who gave you the right to offend my friend? The afterlife has been waiting for you, shouted Lazy, barely breathing in. Raoul was shocked, because he saw the demonic king, and also the 8th stage of the construction of the foundations, dared to harm one of our master's disciples? And you, however, are a daredevil, Randy said, falling to the ground, starting to cultivate. Please do not resist, otherwise your death will be much more painful, Ricky hissed. Raoul did not understand why Amelia was being protected by 3 demonic kings at once. Lazy lifted Amelia. Ricky and Randy were preparing to completely destroy the Ghostbone sect. If I hadn't let her go hunting for the royal dragon turkey, then Amelia wouldn't have had to suffer so much. I used to think that no one could be safe because of my body for eternity, And now I can't even protect her. Jason gritted his teeth. I shouldn't hide in my shell like a turtle. Like a loser unable to do anything, the main character said maliciously, clenching his fist. Having hit the face, the young man came to his senses. He must always be cold-blooded and think ahead if he wants to survive, he thought. At this time, a real massacre broke out not far from the temple. Even small mountains collapsed. The divine sword didn't understand where to hide. He lost his balance and fell to the ground. From the blow of the sword into the ground there was a huge release of energy. A huge wind rose, which blew away even huge stones. Raoul could barely stay on his feet. You're a freak, Raoul, Jason shouted, rushing towards the master of the sect of ghosts. The young man shouted in an enraged voice. Suddenly, the divine sword arbitrarily slipped out of Raoul's hands and headed towards the immortal master. Just recently I was thinking that it would be not a sword, but a glove, so you can read minds. It seems I underestimated you? The main character said happily. The ghost master was surprised that Jason could control the divine sword by willpower, and even change its shape. After all, he came here in vain. Raoul wanted to escape. And where are you going after touching my people? The immortal master said maliciously, thirsting for blood. Starting to collect energy in the glove, Jason began to chase Raoul for a subsequent attack on him. Upon reaching sufficient energy in the glove, the young man attacked the ghost. A few moments later, the master was already holding his student in his arms, hugging her to him. The clouds parted, leaving only a clear sky with a light gust of wind. The guy was shocked by the deep wound on Amelia's body. His face showed only anxiety, and the cold wind wrapped around his whole body. That bastard seriously injured her. Ghost sect, just wait. Sooner or later I'll finish you off, Jason thought as he created the pill. At this time, a battle was taking place between the Demon Kings and Elder Emma. The Demon Kings united to fight back against the Elder of the Ghostbone sect. Emma couldn't contain the combined energy of the kings, she only had to defend herself. Go to hell, the kings shouted, attacking the already almost exhausted Elder. Jason was watching the fight. Emma fell right next to him. He was waiting for the moment to finish the fight between the kings and the Elder. Damn, fucking animals, the wounded Elder was saying. She noticed Jason's cold gaze, bloodlust seeping out of his body. Emma was scared. And what kind of trash do you dare to look at me? Do you want to die? The nascent soul shouted towards the immortal master, but literally in an instant, Jason approached Emma and attacked her. The girl could not even understand that she was being approached. A budding soul, right? The young man asked, hitting her. Also an elder, right? The guy asked, hitting the girl again. Emma couldn't hold back and even see the master's blows. They were so fast that they forced the second largest elder to retreat. Approaching Emma for the last time, the guy no longer restrained the force. Hitting the girl, she could no longer get up. Iris was watching the fight. She couldn't believe that the second in the sect was so easily defeated by an ordinary mortal. Smiling hysterically, Jason showed that he was ready to fight with the rest of the sect members, calling them to come down to his place. Come on, the guy shouted, looking at them, laughing with malicious laughter. At this time, a fragrance emanated from the body of the protagonist. The members of the enemy sect realized that such an alluring fragrance was emitted by the body of the Eternal. They could not restrain themselves. The fragrance was also felt by the demonic kings. They were also drugged by it. The youngest of the sect of ghosts could not restrain himself and gave in to his instincts, shouting, I want meat. Let me bite off at least a piece. He attacked our hero. But Jason was ready to attack. He wanted to destroy every member of the sect. He wanted to show them what true immortality is. The guy was angry. Because a member of the sect of ghosts attacked alone, the main character wanted to deal with the whole sect at once. But there was no choice. He began to collect energy in his fist. After a few seconds he grabbed the ghost's head with his hand. And then he threw him to the ground, broke the beautifully laid out floor in the temple. He threw this ghost from side to side until only pieces remained of his body. The young man was laughing hysterically, and his gaze was worse than a hungry beast looking at meat. How scary is it? Is it definitely our master? Lazy and Randy thought. A system notification appeared in the master's head congratulating him on killing a practitioner of the 4th stage of the nascent soul and receiving 1200 sphere points. Gah, 200 points, how tired I am. It seems that for killing 3 practitioners of the golden core I got only 1500 points. And here for 1200, And there are 2 more, haha, did I hit the jackpot? Iris was scared, because she realized that the guy was much stronger than her, but she could not figure out his cultivation, where he drew such powerful strength from. She was angry at Raoul that he did not say that there was a real great master in the temple. The main character stood and looked at Iris. The girl was scared, because just before her eyes an ordinary young man defeated one of the strongest in their sect. She wanted to run away from fright. Cold sweat ran all over her body. Who gave you permission to leave? Jason asked, looking at her, after which he raised his hand in her direction and began to cultivate. Elder Iris was surprised, because in her long life she had never seen such a powerful cultivation. What did you do to me? Don't worry, I just improved your development. That's all, the guy answered, smiling terribly. Improved development? For me? Are you crazy? Didn't I just get this for nothing? The elder shouted excitedly. Suddenly there was a storm that shouted, When will you stop, Jason? To which he only replied, And I'm waiting for you, fine, after which I began to cultivate. Iris thought that the main character was suffering from thunderous grief to improve her body. She did not understand why he was so kind to her. She was excited. The girl thought that our hero liked her. The guy stood and thoughtfully looked at the sky while Iris was already promoted to the 9th stage of development, and was suffering from pain, because her body was already barely restraining energy. She could no longer contain her energy. Her body was beyond her control. The girl was dying. Suddenly, a system notification appeared saying that the host defeated the first sphere practitioner, and for this he gets 2,000 sphere points. He was wondering why he could only bring them to the level of God. Is it because of the system or is it his limit? The first elder of the sect was exhausted and injured. The look of the protagonist scared her. Don't come near me, don't kill me! Iris cried, towering. And I'm not killing, I'm just helping you with cultivation. And where's the thunderstorm? I did something wrong, didn't I? Why does it sometimes work and sometimes not? This is a pretty cool disaster. I wonder if I can make it myself? Jason mused, looking at Iris's elevation, when suddenly the system notification started talking again, which congratulated the owner on the murder of the practitioner of the 4th stage of the nascent soul and on receiving 1,200 sphere points. The demon kings were shocked by the power of the master. They could not even imagine how powerful their teacher was. They fought with them. Being in the same sphere, they tried their best to be on an equal footing, and the master not only strengthened them, but also killed them in an instant. Maybe he is immortal or even higher, they thought. Silence fell in the temple. The rays of the sun flooded the mountain. It was heard how the grass with leaves rustled. A few hours passed, night fell. Our heroes were sitting in the middle of the temple by the fire. Jason reasoned now the size of the sphere is 74 meters. What are 100,000 mountains there? It doesn't even cover my whole mountain. The most important thing now is to get as many points of the sphere as possible, not only to increase the size, but also for system improvements. In order to get sphere points and seduce others, you need the body of eternity and the divine sword. But because of the body of eternity, not only demons and ghosts go crazy, but even Amelia with these 3 cannot resist. Then only you remain, Jason thought, grabbing the divine sword. Hey you, release your aura of the divine treasure to receive all the ghosts and demons. These creatures are quite sensitive to the aura of the divine treasure. They will immediately come running to pick up the sword, and in this way I will earn sphere points. They will come into my hands themselves, the young man said, pointing at the sword. The sword was surprised. A few hours later, all 4 students fell asleep without waiting for the master's idea. The sword was at the edge of its powers. Jason looked at the sword with a dissatisfied face and sighing. What is it? I waited all night. Why didn't at least one monster or ghost come? The main character was pointing at the sword while shouting. Everyone was already awake. Ricky was crunching his back. Randy was rubbing his eyes. Amelia didn't understand how she slept all night, and Lazy cared why she was all wet. In the circle, everyone felt the divine aura of the treasure. It beckoned them. They wanted to take the treasure for themselves. Their anger and excitement were not measured. There was confusion in the demon world because of the fragrance of the divine aura. Everyone was on edge. They were preparing to attack. A few minutes later, the temple of the immortal was surrounded by demons, ghosts, monsters. There were countless of them. Monsters, demons, ghosts that have eclipsed the heavens, just like the day the sect was destroyed. However, the difference is that now you will turn into ashes," Jason shouted. The master began to cultivate, after which he attacked them with a powerful blow. The master's attacks lasted for several hours. Everyone was shocked by what was happening. "How dreary it is to kill. Having killed so many monsters, I got only 3,400 points. And to improve the system to version 3.0 I need 5,000. Not enough," the main character thoughtfully pronounced. "Most of those who come for the divine sword are low-level demons. Practitioners in the nascent soul realm are too far away and can't sense the aura. Or are they watching?" Jason continued thoughtfully. Jason called Lazy, Ricky and Randy, telling them, "My demonic disciples, I have a very important matter for you." Delighted, the students waited for the continuation of their master's words. "Spread the news that the divine sword is in the temple of the immortals, so that all the demons of the incipient soul among hundreds of mountains will know that the more of them, the better." "I want a bigger fish," said the protagonist, looking at them with a thoughtful look, and added, "Who knows the neighboring mountain of Mycenae?" Ricky shouted that he knew this mountain very well, since it was located near his homeland. Lisi also replied that she knew the area well. As a result, each demon king received his own task from the teacher. A week later, the elder of the Nine Swords sect Edgar and the riding elder of the Nine Swords sect Kelvin came down to the mountain. "The mountain of immortals is ahead," Kelvin told Edgar. "We've heard rumors that Amelia is on this mountain," Kelvin continued, to which Edgar replied, "And there are also rumors that she has taken possession of a divine weapon." At this time, the Ghost Bones sect was flattering their master by giving him a massage, when suddenly the peace of the owner of the mountain was disturbed by the elders of the sect of the Nine Swords. They sternly looked at those around them, giving an unfriendly look. "So you've also come to collect the divine treasure?" Jumping out of bed, Jason shouted. At that moment Amelia uttered the word Dad in a surprised voice. "Dad, Grandpa Hi, why are you here?" Standing in an apron, Amelia shouted. The master of the mountain stood surprised, wondering, "Dad? Grandpa? My sphere glasses have floated away. What are you doing here? What are you doing?" "Go back to the Nine Swords sect," Edgar cried out, looking at his daughter, to which the girl replied in the negative. There was a verbal altercation between the elder and the master. They found out that Amelia is a student of Jason. Kelvin wanted to check whether our protagonist is competent to teach his daughter. When Lazy and Randy suddenly appeared, they were angry that the elders of another sect were on their mountain. Demonic kings of the nascent soul? What strong demons! They must have come for divine weapons. They are stronger than me by one step, and if a battle starts, I'm afraid I won't be able to cope with them. This mountain is really the lair of a crouching tiger and a hidden dragon, the elder thought anxiously. "Dear masters, wait, it's too dangerous here. Remove Amelia as soon as possible. My name is Kelvin. I am the master of the Nine Swords sect, and the supreme elder of the Nine Swords is standing next to me. We were looking for someone here. If that's not a divine treasure," he said, turning to the demons. "Lazy and Randy, this is my dad and grandpa." Looking at her friends, Amelia spoke tremulously. The elders were surprised by the girl's words. "Oh, are these your relatives?" "I'm sorry," Lazy replied. "Did everyone do what I said?" Jason asked the demon kings, to which the fox enthusiastically replied, "Master, my subordinates have done everything in the best possible way." The master of the Nine Swords sect was shocked. He was speechless. These two great demon kings called this mortal a master. Is this man hiding his cultivation so well? "I can't see her. Can he be a god?" the supreme elder reasoned. Amelia began to apologize to Jason for her father, when suddenly Edgar folded his hands and said, "You are masterfully hiding. Our patriarch only wanted to protect his daughter and met with you. I hope you are not offended. We need to take Amelia back to the sect for her sake. You won't interfere, I hope?" Amelia's grandfather said, looking at the young man, when suddenly Amelia stood in front of them and started shouting at them that she did not want to go back. She would continue to follow her master further. "After all, you are one family. If she wants to go with you, then I will not force her to stay. But if she refuses, then you should not take her by force," the master said, putting his hands on the shoulders of the student. With a gloomy look, Edgar and Kelvin began to tell that the ancestor of the ghost sect had already descended. The immortals would also soon come for divine weapons, and it was dangerous to leave Amelia on this mountain. after they began to tell that the elder of the ghost sect Raoul had already descended to the lower world and would soon try to take the divine treasure. To which Raoul immediately began to console the master that he did not need the treasure, and he would continue to serve his master. The elders were surprised again. They cried out in one voice, "So he was in the sphere of the nascent soul. How so?" Jason grabbed Raoul by the tail and said, "The main thing for him is to survive." Kelvin thought in surprise, can he really stand up against the immortals? Standing in a stupor, each of them thought that only a soul remained of the great elder of ghosts, who now serves this master. Is he really so great? "You talk too much," the main character said, looking at Raoul. "It seems they have doubts about me. Just wait until the guests arrive. I'll show you my way to solve problems," Jason said, proudly looking at Amelia's father and grandfather. When suddenly an unfamiliar aura appeared, the guy smiled and said, "So here they are." The demonic kings turned around and saw a crowd of monsters who were ready to attack the temple. "Is this the place where the divine weapon is located?" "Well, where is it, that most vaunted treasure?" Questions came from the crowd. When they saw the people below, they noticed that Jason had the weapon. "Hooray! I will see the power of my master again," Lazy said happily. Elegantly striking a pose, Jason began to move strangely. The elders were shocked by the number of demon kings of the nascent soul level who had arrived. The main character still continued to move funny. Suddenly, in an instant, all the enemies were defeated. Only painful groans were heard. A system alert appeared in the master's head. It congratulated the master on receiving 10,000 sphere points. Now the total score of points was 15,400. It asked if he was ready to improve the system to 3.0, to which Jason immediately replied that he was ready. Everyone stood in a stupor. Even the disciples of the Master of the Mountain did not expect that in an instant so many demon kings would be defeated. He had killed 10 demon kings in a matter of seconds. Had he already comprehended the power of the law? Amelia's father shouted in surprise. Kelvin asked Edgar convulsively, to which he also convulsively replied, "This is impossible. Immortals are obliged to ascend to the upper world. The laws of Kizyu simply do not recognize their existence. Even if they descend into our world, their powers will be significantly limited by laws. Immortals simply cannot stay on the continent." He easily uses the power of the law and is not afraid to mention the immortals. Is he really the legendary man who is able to exterminate the immortals? Kelvin was still talking convulsively. Amelia's grandfather did not understand how she could find such a master. He was even envious. He began to have thoughts about recognizing him as his master and also becoming a disciple. Reading manga wasn't even close. How cool is that? It's a pity I can't get sphere points by pretending. Otherwise I would have taken over the entire continent in an instant, Jason thought. When the system upgrade to 3.0 suddenly started, the system congratulated him on the improvement, and also added that the host had received a new level, namely the essence of the immortal. Everyone felt a pleasant and alluring fragrance, especially the demon kings. They were attracted by this smell. When suddenly everyone attacked the main character in a fit, shouting, "This is mine, give it back." The main character, shouting, directed his mana in their direction. Everyone received a portion of punishment from their master. Everyone lost consciousness in a matter of seconds. Jason was shocked by what was happening. Having asked himself the question how to remove this bad aroma, the system alert answered him that it was possible to cover the body with the essence of the immortal. It would not only hide the appearance, but also the breath of the body of eternity. Our main character received a gift for improving the system to 3.0. It was a salt fish. When asked if he wanted to open it, our hero immediately replied that he was ready. The young man received some kind of experience card. Looking at it, he did not understand what to do with it, and why it was needed at all. After trying to use it on yourself, the system gave an error, saying that it can only be used on objects, and its owner is not a subject. The system update added that after deducting 5,000 points, the invulnerability sphere will forever receive the path of immortality forever function, and the area will be changed to the Divine Valley. As long as you live and practice in the invulnerability area, your mortal body can become immortal, and cultivation will pierce the heavens. Suddenly the tiny fairy turned into a child and learned to talk. "Ah, this is an immortality formation," the elders of the 9 swords said, looking around. The fairy, smiling and looking at Jason, said, "My master, spiritual herb into essence," the young man was saying, lying on Lazy's lap. Kelvin asked Edgar with a dull look. Old man, are we awake? Otherwise, why did this whole place turn into a divine valley? To which he replied, we should still be in the temple of the immortals. I think these changes are caused by the actions of the elder. Grabbing his grandfather by the head, Kelvin said, is the immortal slayer that strong? Of course, he turned the upper world upside down tens of thousands of years ago and beheaded several immortals. His very existence defies the heavens. Edgar answered Kelvin's question. Bending down to his grandfather's ear, the patriarch said that the ghosts were left without their leader, and they could take over their sect. To which the Supreme Elder replied that he has been living for several hundred years and this is the only good time that he will not be able to refuse. If they do not take advantage of the appearance of a new exterminator of the immortals, then in the future they may remain out of business. The elder addressed the main character, saluting him. They apologized for disturbing him and said it was time for them to leave. They again apologized for the inconvenience to the elder because of the trouble that Amelia would cause them. Touching the fairy, Jason replied that they should not worry and come more often, and also added that if an immortal came to them, then they should tell him to go to his mountain. He would wait. Patting his daughter on the head, Kelvin said, Darling, you must obey the elder. If you have an opportunity to become stronger, be sure to use it. Jason hugged the fairy so much that she fainted. The fairy again turned from a child into a crumb. Jason did not understand what was happening. Lazy was looking at her with a worried look. Oh, she stepped on the demonic path. Initially, plants are not considered demons. They are more like elves. If you want to become a demon, then you need to swallow the spiritual energy of the world and the essence of the sun and moon to step on the demonic path and start cultivating. It took me several years. And after all, I was considered a genius among the disciples of the ancient sect of the Fox, said Lazy. And our baby spent less than a day on such abilities. I'm afraid she's already at level 9. An incomparable talent in the entire demon sect, the fox continued to declare. So far, she is unable to maintain her form. Most likely this is due to the fact that she has just set foot on the demonic path, having not yet had time to really practice the method of demonic cultivation, and while she cannot control her spiritual power, if a suitable method can be found, then the fairy will learn to control energy, and then her body it will not suddenly decrease, it will also cause new changes. Chanterelle continued to declare. I came to her senses, releasing small streams of mana. It's all right, you can rest here, don't worry, Aya said smilingly. Jason looked at the little fairy with a lustful gaze. The main character, turning to Liza, asked her to pass on her experience so that she could learn faster. The fox was shocked that the master asked her. Did he really trust me so much, she thought. Thinking that this was some kind of test from the master, she agreed to justify the trust of her teacher. With an incomprehensible face, Jason said, Aya, my future happiness, my knee pillow, everything depends on you, handing the fairy to Liza. Liza took the fairy and they flew away. Jason shouted after them to come back soon. So they all left. How lonely it is, Jason said, wiping his tears with a handkerchief. Randy was also upset, when suddenly he said, You have me too. I won't let you be lonely. He rushed at our hero. Amelia was peeping at them from behind the wall. She didn't understand what was going on, but she was shocked by what was happening. A few days later, the Immortal Master's clone was attacked by a green snake. Shit, my clone has already been killed twice with some kind of leather belt. One day I will personally skin him, the guy shouted, angry and pounding on the floor. Angry, he stood on the table and shouted, Amelia, there will be snake soup for dinner now, to which the student replied, Okay, master, no problem. The system notification to its owner said that the clone's strength is determined by the number of sphere points spent. The more of them, the stronger it will be. We have a common creation, as if a VR helmet for watching movies is even a little strange, Jason said, looking at the clone with a loving look. When suddenly an unfamiliar aura appeared at the temple, the smiling protagonist, looking at the sky, asked, Another monster? 12 immortals descended into the lower world. They completely destroyed the Nine Swords sect, thereby angering our protagonist. They were looking for a divine sword. Upon arriving at the monster sect, their overwhelming aura shocked all the members of the sect, causing only their presence to tremble. The aura emanating from them was so powerful that even the elders and supreme elders of the sect trembled. Everyone wondered why they had arrived, because tens of thousands of years had already passed since the last descent of the immortal. It would be fine if one descended, But as many as 12 descended, no one could believe what was happening. The head of the sect consoled his followers by saying that they were on their side and had come to take the sacred treasure from the master of the Mountain of Immortals. After such relieving words, everyone began to rejoice, because they would see the battle of the immortals. Upon arrival at the temple of our main character, they felt the aura of an immortal. They could not understand what an immortal could forget in this miserable place, and in general, what kind of immortal is this? They were also shocked that there was a divine valley in the lower world. They could not believe what was happening. They went down to the temple. At this time our hero was happy, because not one immortal came to him, but as many as 12. He was glad, because now he will raise a bunch of sphere points. Amelia and Randy were trembling at the sight of them. They were nervous, because they had seen immortals for the first time. The student clung to her master. She was scared, but Jason comforted her. He said that he was next to her, and she had nothing to be afraid of. There was a roar. The ground began to shake, thick dust rose, nothing was visible. Ricky and Amelia's surprise increased, they were in shock, but the main character could not see anything from behind Randy. Amelia's grandfather fell to the ground covered in blood. The immortals asked only one question: does he call himself the exterminator of the immortals? If you want to take the sword from me, then here I am. Why involve innocent people? The mountain master said in a malicious voice. When suddenly Amelia convulsively attacked the immortals, they were surprised by such boldness. The elder of the sect of immortals took the blow. He repelled it with one hand. And you are brave, one of the immortals shouted, adding, this girl has the divine sword of the immortal emperor in her hands. Redwall was angry. He started cultivating, shouting about how she dared to use the sword of the immortals to attack the immortals themselves. The girl was attacked by a huge skeleton with a sword that was made with the help of the old man's cultivation. When suddenly our main character appeared, who attacked head-on, a huge wind rose. Student, are you hurt? Jason asked Amelia. All the immortals made fun of the old man, because some man from the mortal world was able to repel his attack. But he justified himself by using only 1/10 of his entire strength. But this kid was able to repel my blow. I think he has some aces up his sleeve. We should not underestimate the opponent, Elder Redval said, looking intently at the master of the mountain. To which the other immortals replied that there were 12 of them, and he was only one. They had nothing to fear. Amelia threw the sword to the ground. There was a contact of the divine aura with the earth. There was a small collapse from the mountain. Master, Dad is dead. The 9 Swords sect has been destroyed, the disciple said, crying. My house is no more, the girl said, continuing to cry. Jason hugged her, closely watching the immortals. His aura was getting darker and darker, and his gaze was getting rougher by the second. He wanted to kill the immortals. Don't cry, my student, said the main character, wiping the tears on the girl's face. Picking up the divine sword, Jason's aura acquired a divine color. I will kill them in the name of your revenge, said the main character, releasing huge streams of mana, gazing intently at the immortals. The sounds of laughter began to come from their crowd. It was funny to the immortals that the immortal told them that he would kill them, because they are several steps higher than any of the lower world. First I will return the sword, and then we will kill you. Our time in this world is very limited, Junior Elder of the Immortals Isa said, starting cultivation at the summoning of the sword. But the sword did not respond. Nothing happened. It continued to be in Jason's hands and absorb his mana. Why isn't the divine sword responding? Convulsively each of the immortals asked. They thought that they were too far away and the sword could not hear them. They flew closer, thereby entering into the action of our hero's sphere. Isa continued her cultivation over the summoning of the sword, pushing out more and more mana. But the sword was still in the hands of the mountain master, and a cold sweat descended on the younger elder's body. The venerable one's spell can't be wrong. Just like the divine sword can't help but answer what's going on, the girl wondered. The rest of the immortals thought that the sword was now under the control of this young man. Come back if you want, I won't stop you. Jason turned to the sword, to which he made it clear that everything suits him here. The immortals got angry. Some were ready to attack, but they were stopped by the head of the Itorium, saying that she would deal with him herself. After starting cultivation, she began to release strong aura streams and uttering incomprehensible words. Heavenly thunder, the law of the lower world that restrains and punishes all practitioners who violate the path of heaven. Even the inferior immortals of this world are not able to complete the path of heaven. I can kill him with one movement of my hand, and with the divine sword made by the Venerable himself from 10,000 years of black iron. Everything will be fine, the girl cried with purple hair, arms outstretched to the side. The sky was overshadowed by clouds in an instant. A thunderstorm appeared. Lightning began to strike in different directions. Fall down, great lightning, said the head, directing a huge stream of lightning towards the young man. The great lightning stream was wondering who he was going to kill now. But when he saw the smiling Jason, she was shocked. His gaze was calm. The lightning disappeared without attacking the main character. Sis, aren't you an archer? You are immortals, you seem quite strong, but you turned out to be weak. I'm disappointed, the guy said smiling, looking at Itoria. Every member of the immortal sect was angry. Our might is not something a mortal practitioner can handle. The old man Revel said maliciously. One of the immortals shouted, Stop talking to him, he's a brat, let's kill him. After these words, the immortals rushed to attack. Oh, it's not bad to have 12 at once, come closer, since you can't wait, the main character said and waved his sword. He's changing, dodge. Isa shouted. The immortals were shocked by the youth's strength and his attack. Fortunately, I was not hurt. Wait, look at this, Itoria screamed, pointing her finger at the area of Jason's attack. The Kizu continent has its own laws, and we, the immortals from the upper world, despite our strength, would not be able to break through the spatial crack in the world. But this guy could, Itoria added convulsively, looking at the practitioner. None of them understood how it was possible for an ordinary mortal from some ordinary lower world to be able to make a spatial crack. They understood that only those who mastered the powers of the laws of Kizu are capable of such a thing. But this youngster only needed to swing his sword. They began to think about retreating. They wanted to report everything to the Venerable One, and after that he would send stronger immortals. But as soon as they moved away from the attack, they were surprised Jason's actions. The main character did not understand what he had done, so he decided to check by sticking his hand inside the spatial crack. This is a spatial crack, even a Venerable One is afraid of it, and he just picked it up and touched it. Does he want to go to his forefathers? Tabas shouted, to which Valtunus replied, Don't you see? Does he even care what he's doing? Jason, looking at the disappearing crack, thought that he had destroyed the space himself. He had even thought of a system to blackmail. But as soon as the crack disappeared, the release of the divine aura increased, thereby making the enemies afraid. Well, gentlemen and ladies, are you ready to die at my hands? The guy asked, grinning maliciously. Come on together. I don't believe that we 12 immortals won't be able to defeat him. You heard him. He won't let us go. We have to fight to the death. The only way we will have a chance to survive, die. Shouting this, all 12 immortals attacked our hero again. Come, the guy said, starting to cultivate. The immortals were again shocked by the guy's actions. What is he doing? The law is the power of the law. It's over, Adam shouted, telling Amelia to open her eyes and watch how those who destroyed and were responsible for the death of her sect would die now. But the immortals began to beg for mercy, hiding behind the fact that he would offend the Venerable if he killed as many as 12 immortals because of some lower sect. But Jason's answer was simple. He was indifferent to the Venerable and the immortals themselves. He was angry that his temple and the mountain were trying to destroy. Each of the members of the sect broke into a cold sweat. They understood that this was their demise. Jason attacked the immortals, launching an attack in their direction. The attack was so extensive that no one could dodge. The bodies of the immortals were burned. The screams they made could be heard even on the neighboring mountains. Randy and Raoul were shocked by what was happening. Just that their master was able to deliver such a powerful blow to the demigods of this world. Look carefully, cultivate harder and become stronger to meet the expectations set by the Father, the teacher said to his student, looking with a cold gaze at the dying immortals. Other sects saw what was happening, and those who submitted to the will of the sect of immortals were especially surprised. No one understood what kind of flame it was that could turn immortals into dust. Immortals can only be turned into dust by the divine flame. Everyone who saw what was happening said, turning into pills is a pretty good death, don't you think? The guy said, grinning. The broadcast that was shown to everyone, which was supposed to show the power of the sect of immortals and make others fear them, was destroyed. Jason only noticed after the fight with the immortals that he was being followed, but did not attach much importance to this. He did not yet know that everyone now knows about his mosh. All 12 bodies of the immortals were turned into pills. Our main character looked at them with a loving look and enjoyed them. A system notification appeared, which said that the sphere points were received, but due to the large number they cannot be issued at the moment. The score of points will be later. Amelia rushed into the arms of her master. She was worried about him. "Thank you, master," the girl said several times, clinging to him more and more. Tears flowed down her eyes. Jason understood that the pain of his student because of the loss is huge. He did not know how to comfort her, so he just silently hugged her. He said that as soon as he was sure of the result, he would tell her something, what he was hiding, and while he sent her to rest, later he would ask someone to take her to the Nine Swords sect. There was a knock on the temple door. Layla and Eva entered the temple, immediately saluting and starting to apologize. Layla was the demonic emperor from the ancient Fox sect, and Eva was the granddaughter of the demonic emperor from the ancient Fox sect. Jason ordered the girls to sit down with a gloomy look. They immediately fell to their knees and began to beg for mercy. They did not want to die. "The power that is capable of killing immortals has suppressed my cultivation by its mere presence. I'm afraid if the elder wants to kill me, then a finger will be enough for him," Layla thought convulsively. The demonic emperor, the strongest ruler among all the 100,000 mountains, the one followed by tens of thousands of loyal servants and warriors, the favorite of his sect and its main defender, and you are brave, however, the main character said gloomily. The foxes apologized for their act and asked not to destroy the sect of the ancient fox. The empress offered her life in return for the preservation of the sect, but her granddaughter dissuaded her, because she is reliable and sometimes the whole sect. Falling to her knees, Eva shouted, "Please, Senior, spare my grandmother and the fox sect, and if I attract you at least a little, I will fulfill your every wish. If I forgive your grandmother and the sect, I can do anything with you, right?" The young man clarified, to which the girl responded positively. "Then show me your sincerity," the main character said, putting a wooden stick on his shoulder. Jason started hitting Eva on the melons. It turned her on. The granddaughter sighed heavily, uttering lustful sounds. "You unknowingly let me look at how our sect is being humiliated. I can't even utter a word. What kind of protection? What kind of honor? Now it's nothing more than a joke. This person didn't care about our origin from the very beginning. We're just clowns who can't go on stage," she thought fearfully, the empress of foxes. Layla thought that Jason was a real devil, and he still continued to beat Eve with a stick. "Okay, Eva, you deserve a free meridian opening," the main character said, drooling, and his nose was bleeding. The empress jumped on her granddaughter's back, thereby trying to protect her. She asked to stop and took all the blame on herself, so that her sect and granddaughter would not suffer. Jason threw the stick to the ground, stamping his foot on the ground several times. "Okay, I'll forgive you," the owner of the Immortal Mountain said arrogantly. "Oh yes, my students went to your mountain to hone their skills, so in gratitude for this, I give you a divine fruit," the guy said, throwing a pill with a divine fruit. The empress, bowing her head, wished to become a follower of our main character, but he replied that they would discuss it only when Lisi returned from the mountain. "But if you go against me in the future, then I won't forgive you," Jason said, looking angrily at Layla. As soon as the foxes left the mountain and our hero wanted to rest, system notifications began to arrive, which said that 20,000 sphere points were counted for each immortal killed, and the total number was 240,050. The main character was shocked by so many points, he couldn't believe it. With stars in his eyes, he said 240,000 points several times, each time louder and louder. "It's 2,400 meters, the system. Spend all the points on expansion," the hero said joyfully. "Wait, can I improve it to version 4.0? The guy asked the system a question, to which she replied that the owner only needs 50,000 points to improve to version 4.0. But there is one more condition: he must cover the entire mountain within a month to get the title of Laura of the Mountain. If he does not, will have time in due time, the improvement will fail. In other words, the only way to upgrade the system is to become a lord? And why is there a timer here? Jason wondered in surprise. Yes, if I spend all the points of the sphere, then I will only cover a third of the mountain. The more you improve, the more impudent you are, the guy said maliciously, adding, I will not improve you. I will only waste time. I am already safe here. To which the system replied to him that for improving to version 4.0, he will receive various techniques and magical weapons of mythical heroes from ancient dynasties of China. The mood of the main character has changed. He agreed. he improved the sphere by 1,000 meters. Here we are again at the bottom. We need to figure out how to quickly earn points. Lying on the couch, our hero thought dejectedly. When Amelia came to the Mountain of 9 Swords, she saw the dead body of her father. She was shocked by what she saw. Frantically looking in different directions, she did not understand what to do. But suddenly she heard a sound coming from behind her. She turned around and was shocked. Behind her stood the sect. All were safe and sound. Smiling, they looked at Amelia. They told her that thanks to Jason, they are all alive. All these dead bodies are an illusion that was created with the help of the Elder's talisman. Our hero has been thinking for a long time how to help them if the immortals arrive, since they will be the first place where they will show up. He said that there could be 2 outcomes. The first one would be them coming to him right away, or the second they would arrive at the 9 Swords sect and kill everyone. So it was necessary to somehow deceive them so that everyone would stay alive. Listening to this, the elder of the 9 Swords sect broke into a cold sweat. He gave us a talisman that creates an illusion conceived by the owner. Thereby we were able to escape. Sobbing joyfully, Amelia said that she loved her master, to which the elder replied, "The elder is great. He was ready to face them alone from the very beginning. In this world the strong eats the weak, and it's great luck that our sect is familiar with such a righteous and great man." Only the soul remained of the grandfather. Amelia was shocked by this, but glad that he was still alive. "No," the patriarch suddenly cried out. The girl was scared. "I forgot to report to the elder." Amelia's father continued to shout, raising the scroll. Suddenly, a huge silhouette of the master of the Mountain of Immortals appeared, with glasses on his eyes and a cigarette in his mouth. Jason took a look and was glad that the members of the 9 Swords sect were still alive. The Lotus Festival was held in the Supreme World. The girls danced, beautiful music played. "It's been a long time, Brother Gabriel," said the immortal Saint Lemuel. "Why are you drinking alone, hiding in a corner? Something happened? Tell your brother, I'll solve everything." Lemuel continued to speak. "My 12 immortal generals were killed by the exterminator of the immortals from the lower world," the emperor of the higher world said with a malicious look. Everyone praised Mila for her beauty, but she stood and looked at others with displeasure. "I've come to borrow a divine tree," said the lady. 3 days later, the divine tree blossomed. It emitted a divine aura, and the fruits were ready to be harvested. Amelia was doing a massage to her master, sitting on his back. "A little to the left, yes, that's where." "It's so good to have students," Jason said contentedly. During the massage, they discussed the state of the 9 Swords sect, and Amelia also thanked her teacher for saving her sect. Suddenly Raoul appeared, saying that he had a message for the master. Lazy, Fairy Alice and Eva returned to the mountain. Eva was grateful that Lazy helped her return to the mountain to Jason. "Not only was I unable to complete the master's task, but I also put everything on him," Lisa said sadly. Liza also said that she was going to be punished, to which Eva excitedly asked, "Punishment? Don't be afraid, I'm with you," Eva said smiling, looking at Lazy. Eva imagined the punishment from the master, and couldn't wait for it. Suddenly, from the temple, they heard strange lustful sounds that their elder was making. Coming closer, they could not decide to go in. They heard the voice of the master and Amelia. They could not understand what they were doing there. When Liza decided to enter the temple, she opened the doors and shouted, "What are you doing here?" Amelia and Jason welcomed Liza and Eva back. The demonic fox was surprised by what she saw. She was speechless. Right after she came to her senses, she started apologizing for not being able to complete his task and started asking to be punished for it. But then Eva got involved. She started saying that her sect was to blame for everything, and she wanted to take all the blame of her friend on herself, and therefore it was worth punishing her. But Jason did not understand what kind of punishment he was talking about. He said that no one was to blame for this. Eva was upset, and Liza, on the contrary, was glad that the master did not consider her a loser. Why does Eva look so upset? Does she really want to be punished? Does it mean that sweet and gentle girls need to be well loved? Is it true? Our main character reasoned. Jason told Lacey that he couldn't blame her. She did everything she could. He gave her a pill. The girl was surprised that the master gave her an immortal pill. Eva was even more upset that she wouldn't get the pill from the master. With her gaze, she burned through the master. She did not look away from him. Sitting on a chair, our hero was thinking about how to raise the number of points of the sphere in a short period of time. After thinking for just a few minutes, He decided that he could send his clone to investigate. He would not be so weak now. An immortal clone costs a lot, but I can visit any place in the lower world, create a clone, Jason said happily. 30,000 points were deducted for the immortal clone, the remainder 20,000 points. The young man was surprised by his clone. He was excellent. His aura was frightening. He wanted to see everything in the first person. It killed him, upset him. He began to feel dizzy. The guy lay down on the bed. The clone went to unknown places. The clone's gaze was cold, incomprehensible. Only by his eyes it was possible to understand that he was much stronger than any elder of the neighboring mountains. His might could be compared with the strength of the immortals from the upper world. Wow, what power! I can even feel the unique aura of the practitioner. Just one blow will be enough for me to destroy 3 mountains at once, the clone said happily. Wait a minute, this clone Terminator only has cultivation. There are no techniques, no levels, but you also need to take care of points. How can I learn techniques in this divine world of cultivation? Moreover, I am very interested in whether the function received by the clone will work on the main body, whether the system will work for the clone if there are any exercises in the system library, the hero reasoned. Let's learn a couple so that after the clone's death, my main body gets all the points of the sphere. But I don't have a single technique for immortals, our hero continued to reason. After all, the clone was created by the system, which means it is able to use the functions of the system, right? All the same reason Jason. Attack with the index finger. The main character shouted. Shouting 3 words, the wall in the temple was destroyed in a matter of seconds. All the students were surprised by what was happening, because they could not understand what kind of release of a huge aura had just happened. When suddenly their eldest appeared from behind the broken walls, everyone was glad to see him and that he was much better. At this time in the higher world, Mila was asking the elders about the divine tree that grows in the divine valley in the lower world. The immortal elder was besotted with Mila's beauty. He promised to show her where the divine tree was. Mila was angry, because a mirror was stolen from her, with which you can find divine objects or find out their location. And now some worm that has never descended to the lower world knows where it is. She was angry at him. She thanked the immortal, charming him even more. Mila followed the divine tree directly to the temple of the immortal. At this time, our main character went to conquer other mountains. But as soon as he left the sphere, he was hit by a strong stream of lightning. For some time, our girl did not stop training, improving her skills. Eventually Amelia reached the 9th stage of the Golden Core. Jason received 100 orb points as a reward for her achievements. Suddenly a thunderstorm arose and huge gusts of wind began to blow. Jason, looking at the sky in surprise, did not understand what was happening. Thoughts came to him that Amelia was really going to go through the thunderstorm grief. The spirit of the storm was unhappy that he saw this couple in front of him again. Amelia began cultivating, releasing more and more energy into her sword. Resigned to the fact that now I would beat him again, the spirit decided that it was better to just be patient. Thus Amelia reached the 1st stage of the sphere of the nascent soul. At this time, a system notification awarded Jason 10,000 points for promoting Amelia. He was surprised by the number of points. The system notification explained that he received such a huge number of points due to the improvement of the sphere to 3.0. Our hero reasoned that it was better for him not to look for fights, but that he could simply recruit as many students as possible and promote them. Looking at Eve with a lustful gaze, thinking about what he could start with her. At this time, Eve could not understand why the master was looking at her like that. She thought that he understood her thoughts. After coughing and collecting his thoughts, our main character closed his eyes, while the fox looked anxiously at her teacher. At this time, our main character was disappointed by the system notification that for promoting Eva he would receive several times fewer points. The multiplication affects each promotion differently. A few minutes later, Amelia ran up to him and tried to please the master with the fact that she had broken through into the sphere of the nascent soul. Jason pretended he didn't know, so he praised his student. The fox girls stood and talked among themselves about how they were jealous of her, because they didn't know if they could repeat the feat of their friend. At the moment of the conversation between Amelia and Jason, some incomprehensible force was approaching them. Before she could react, she hit Jason square in the head. Our main character's condition became clouded. He could not understand what was happening to him. Eva started asking her master if he was okay, but the guy didn't answer. At this time, Amelia and Lazy were discussing with trepidation the lightning that had hit the master. The main character got angry. He said that this was news from the longevity sect and he urgently needed to go. Lazy tried to ask to go with her master, but the young man refused the girl, arguing that he would go there with the help of his clone, and the girls at that time had to protect his real body. At this time, very far from the mountain of our main character, there was some kind of city. Darkness wafted from it, and the smell of blood was in the air. Some strange creature sat and reasoned that after absorbing all the practitioners in this city, he didn't even have enough to eat. Laughing and smoking, he added that human masters were always delicious. When suddenly he remembered that there was a killer of immortals, Jason. Standing up and brushing himself off, he jumped into the sky. The force of his jump was so powerful that it destroyed the city in an instant. The girls were again surprised by the strength of their master. Each time he demonstrated more and more of his skills. Each of the girls thought about lustful things, because they could do whatever they wanted with his body, and he wouldn't know about it. At this time, our main character moved to the island of ghosts. Our hero stood in the foliage, thinking that the speed was too fast, because he could barely stop in time. He also added that his performance is now at its peak, when suddenly a girl hit a tree. It was the demon cat girl Sia. She was a young mistress. Some men in cloaks wanted to take her away, calling her young mistress. However, she tried to fight them off, refusing them. From the bushes, Jason watched what was happening, thinking that love can be tough, because they want to force this girl to marry some bald man. Shouting that they should try to catch up with her first, she rushed to run away from them. A battle broke out between them. The men tried to grab the girl, but she fought back. Jason, thinking that she was outnumbered, thought about interfering in their battle. At the moment of his reasoning, Sia was hit in the stomach. When the men tried to grab her, some force unfamiliar to them appeared and threw them back. Our main character appeared in front of them, showing his index finger. He told them to leave the girl alone, but they angrily told him to leave the young man, otherwise he would die. Smirking, he used a small part of his power. The men in cloaks began to spit blood. Reasoning about why they could not understand his strength right away, the girl ran to him and began to hug him. Looking at her, Jason thought that the girl was able to take advantage of the situation, because she probably saw him. She grabbed him affectionately by the clothes and then said the word master in a sweet little voice. After that, she offered to serve him, because he showed himself to be very strong. Hearing this, the cloaked people were stunned. They tried to dissuade the young lady from this idea. Smiling, our main character ordered these men to get lost, otherwise they would die. The men ran away with their ears back. The demon girl thought that it was good that she had thought of joining this man, because thanks to him, she would be safe, from whose masters her father was sending her. Trying to hug the young man, the girl said that because he saved her, she would be his cat for the rest of her life, but Jason refused her. Then the girl bit the guy on the hand, saying that if he doesn't need cats, she will become his wife. The guy thought that not everything was fine with her. She tried to persuade him to take her with him, because she would be safer with him. Jason thought that he needed a companion who knew the outside world. After thinking everything over, the guy agreed to take her with him. Lifting Sia by the scruff of the neck, Jason told her that before setting off, she must satisfy him. The guy's words plunged the girl into a stupor. Sighing, he added that they would discuss this topic later. But now they had to leave, because it would soon get dark. On the ground lay a pendant in some red liquid. Picking it up, he began to make sounds. He was picked up by a monk with a swastika on his head. He looked into the distance with an angry gaze and thought about what he had finally found. Jason and the girl arrived in the very center of the city on the island of ghosts. Walking through the streets of the city, Jason enjoyed the crowdedness of the city, because it had been a long time since he had seen something like this. Having carried out some mathematical calculations in his head, our main character came to the conclusion that he would need about 10 million sphere points in order to cover the entire mountain, at which time the little lady was buying up everything that caught her eye. Our young man was called from different sides of the street to buy something, but the guy, just walking down the street, enjoyed what was happening. When suddenly a man appeared in front of him, some kind of liquid was pouring like a fountain from behind his mouth. It did not stop pouring, splashing in different directions. Sia told Jason that she forgot to remind him to hide his power, because his pressure leads to this. The demon asked the master where he would like to go. Saying that he just wanted to take a walk, he began to walk forward, adding the question of why she was being pursued by her own clan. The girl told him that her father wanted to marry her to some monk, and she ran away a couple of days before the ceremony. The cat was crying and talking about how she was hiding near the island of ghosts. Sia thought that it was impossible not to sympathize with her, because she was sweet, but Jason thought the opposite. He had thoughts of leaving her. He asked the girl if she was afraid that her fiancé would catch her. She explained to the guy that a monk should not leave the temple without a good reason, so she wants to forget about him and asks our main character not to ask any more questions on this topic. Saying vulgar words, the cat hugged her master, who was surprised by the cat's crazy thoughts. He thought that his patience was not eternal, so it would not last long. Suddenly a huge pillar of lightning struck them. The girl was shocked, because she did not expect the blow. Jason's face was cold. Monks stood in the sky, shouting as one that they had not seen their lady for a long time, and were glad to see her healthy. Behind the crowd of monks stood a monk with a swastika on his head. Darwin. He was at the peak of the nascent soul. Jason's face was serious, because he sees weaklings in front of him who cannot harm him, but at the same time they are trying to intimidate him. The monks took an attacking stance. The girl knew what they say. If a monk takes such a stance, then his blows are comparable to the blows of 1,000 swords. Darwin told the girl about her father, and that he was looking forward to their return. The guy's face showed his reaction, because he couldn't understand whether all fathers these days really decide everything by force. Hiding behind Jason, the cat tried to refuse to return to the clan, but the monk began to intimidate her. Starting to walk towards the monk, the girl thought that her master would not be able to defeat so many monks. She also joyfully discussed how she would run away a second time, but Jason hugged the girl and said that she was now his and he would not let her go. Everyone around began to mock our main character. The monk got angry, because he had never heard any refusals before. The girl began to worry and tried to dissuade her master from starting a fight with the monk, but Jason said with a cold face that they were all like ants in front of him. Darwin, smiling, said that he would help the young man die, since he wanted it so much. Everyone began to chuckle even more at Jason's words and also praised the monk. Suddenly the monk surrounded our main character and began to cultivate. Darwin ordered to kill him. The monks headed into battle. They used different fighting styles, imitating animals. When suddenly our main character released a small part of his energy, a roar was heard. The monks flew away one by one, and plaintive cries were heard. No one could believe what they just saw, because just now, several monks were defeated in a couple of seconds. With a contemptuous face, he asked if that was all. Darwin asked the young man how strong he was and how he hid all his strength. Releasing some round object imbued with energy from under his mother, he shouted that Jason had caught him. The guy smiled, barely holding back his laughter. The monk explained that this is a bow from the upper world, and it can suppress any demon. As soon as the monk finished his words, he looked at Jason, who was already holding the cup in his hand. Angry, Darwin shouted that he would kill our protagonist with his bare hands. Starting the cultivation, he used the hand of a Buddha. With a smile on his face, the young man began his cultivation, saying that he would now demonstrate the real teachings of the Buddha. A huge dragon from the cultivation appeared. Jason's energy rose higher and higher, enlarging the dragon. People located further from the city center could not believe this power. Some even thought that a real dragon had descended on them. Burning with the energy of our protagonist, the monk thought that he was so close to immortality, but all his plans collapsed. Everyone stood with their mouths open, not understanding where such power came from in an ordinary person. The system alert announced a reward of 2,000 points, as well as a chest. Then our protagonist thought that earning points is much faster from the outside than waiting for someone to knock on the door. The main character stood in a stupor, because he could not open the chest with the help of a clone. Looking at Sia, our protagonist told her that now it was her time to help solve problems. Pointing to the ship in the sky, he asked how to get into it. As he walked towards the ship, he talked about the 3 great sects. The girl jumped on the guy's back, grabbing his clothes. Sia was glad, because her master was a real strongman, and she would be safe with him. At this time, Amelia, approaching the temple, heard some sounds. Eva and Lazy stood excited that they could enjoy the splendor of their master. Lazy licked her finger, and said that they could all enjoy the moment together. Suddenly there was a feeling of heaviness around the mountain. Everyone felt it, even the animals. The girls, looking into the distance, realized that something terrible was coming, because the atmosphere in the air was terrible. At this time, in Amelia's homeland, one of the sword statues cracked. The girl's father realized that things were bad. Starting to get angry and releasing a huge amount of energy, he added that the Upper Kingdom wants to intervene again. The followers of the Nine Sword clan went to the Immortal Mountain. On Fox Mountain they also felt danger. They understood that their masters wanted to attack. Exhaling heavily, the fox reasoned that the masters were again being attacked by immortals. Her students began asking her what they should do, to which she replied that no one should panic. Suddenly the sky became covered in darkness, the wind rose. She realized that this time a much more powerful cultivator had come to kill the master than those 12 immortals. They, as well as the members of the 9 swords, went to the master. At this time, more and more darkness was gathering around the Immortal Mountain. A demon flew into the sky, giggling. He could not believe that 12 immortals had fallen on this mountain. After shouting out the name of our main character, he added that he should come out and fight him. Amelia, seeing the creature, asked him who he was, but he only looked at her with a contemptuous look, telling her to die. Raising his finger and starting to release energy, he raised the wind. The wind was so strong that the girls could barely stand on their feet. Suddenly the divine sword began to shine. Amelia, trying to repel his energy, said that he was not welcome and that he had left the mountain, but the demon only laughed. He reached out to Amelia, because when he saw the divine sword, he realized that the girl was one of his students or followers. Suddenly, the girl flew up. Eva and Lazy screamed her name. The girl's body flew straight into the hands of the demon, who grabbed her head, suppressing all the girl's energy. When suddenly the sword began to shine, the girl swung it. The demon was surprised by this, because he was blocking her power. He was angry that the girl had not lost the meaning of life. He grabbed her head and tried to give it away, when suddenly some cultivations began to approach him. Having hit him with a direct hit, he did not intentionally let the girl go. Laughing that he really saw foxes that could attack unexpectedly, he looked at the attacking Eve. Having said that he would now demonstrate how to attack, he smiled again. When Eve suddenly fell to the ground, there was a roar. There was blood coming from the girl's mouth, and she was spitting in pain. Looking at the lying girl, the demon said that he would eat them first, and leave their masters for last. When suddenly he noticed someone else's aura approaching him. It was the Fox and 9 Swords sect. An old lady Lazy tried to attack the demon. She began to give orders that the wounded were taken care of. Amelia's old man recognized this demon. His reputation was terrible, and everywhere he was there was only dust. He called him the real devil from hell who could get to them. The elder gave the order that the girls tried to wake up the master, and they would try to detain him. Shouting for everyone to follow her, she rushed forward. The faces of the members of the 9 Swords spoke for themselves, because they were not comfortable being commanded by the fox. Having begun to cultivate, the demon said something under his breath, periodically emitting incomprehensible screams. Suddenly, all the cultivators who had attacked him flew away, and no one could hold out against his might. Everyone was overwhelmed by the demon's power, causing them to feel a heaviness in their chests, which caused them to spit out blood. The fox transformed into its real body, and it also spat blood. Wiping off the blood, she only said that in this situation they were all useless. Looking at him, she compared him with the power of the immortals, saying that most likely they were on the same level as their master. Suddenly the demon went to Eve, who was lying on the ground. Approaching her with the rope, he just laughed. Having tied Eve up, he picked her up, waving her in different directions. He tried to get Jason's attention. Looking at the girl, he thought that somehow everything was going too smoothly. After all, under normal circumstances, no master would allow his weak subordinates to fight him. He laughed, because he thought that Jason specifically sent them into battle in order to sneak up on him unnoticed. Starting to squeeze Eve's body, he shouted for the rest of his subordinates to call Jason, otherwise he would eat the girl. The elder and Lazy stood in a stupor, saying only that the demon should not do this. Eve, saying that the clan of divine foxes had submitted to the master and would not betray him, shouted that she would rather die. Lazy rushed towards the demon, saying that she would not let Eve die so easily. Suddenly, an old woman from a clan of foxes shouted that she was ready to give her life so that he would not touch the others. This whole situation amused the demon, because he was, after all, going to eat everyone. Opening his mouth wide over Eve's head, he was ready to eat her. The old woman screamed pityingly that he should not do this. The girl screamed. The demon began to release energy. Pursing her lips, she thought that she would rather die herself than put her master at risk. Suddenly there was a blow and a huge wind rose. The energy was so powerful that it made the mountain tremble. Old Eva looked forward anxiously to see what had happened. They saw a master standing in the distance, holding a fox in his hand. The girl, crying, said that the master should be careful, because this demon is strong. His gaze frightened even his comrades. Giving the order to them to hold on, he added that he himself would deal with him. Before he could finish speaking, the demon rushed towards him, shouting that he had been waiting for him for so long. When suddenly the guy moved straight towards the demon, hitting him with a powerful blow. The guy said that by fighting him, he could only warm up. He threw the demon in different directions, not allowing him to rest even for a second. Throwing the demon aside, the young man laughed, and the demon could barely stand on his feet. Angry, he began to scream, screaming and releasing a colossal amount of energy. When Jason suddenly rushed towards him, light emanated from him. The demon was broken. He didn't understand where such a guy got such power. He couldn't even touch him. The guy did not stop beating the demon. He could only take the blows. Gathering a huge amount of energy in his hand, Jason swung. An incomprehensible force began to gather around Jason. The guy, laughing, told him that if you like to eat, then enjoy your meal. The demon's mouth began to fill. He began to beg for mercy. The young man stood and thought about how lucky he was, because now he would receive a huge amount of energy. And the demon's body has already begun to swell from the amount of energy. The guy was glad that the system was able to notify him, because otherwise he would not even have known about what was happening. Looking with an ominous look at the lying creature, the young man smiled. The elder foxes thought that the guy was much kinder. The demon's body did not stop swelling. There was more and more energy in his body. As the sound of thunder was heard, the sky darkened due to clouds. The thunder spirit, as soon as he saw Jason, was disappointed and also shocked. Meanwhile, the demon's body became larger and larger. No one has ever seen such powerful flares. Looking at the demon, Jason thought that was all. Suddenly lightning rushed towards the main character. After hitting him, Jason thought something had bitten him. Thinking that next time he would do everything himself, he began to cultivate. Suddenly there was an explosion, the mountain crackled, and the wind rose. The system alert announced that the owner receives 30,000 points for killing a stage 9 immortal. The fox elder cried out that he was able to deal with the killer of immortals so easily. Everyone was shocked by the power of their master. Jason wanted to thank his students, so he offered pills as a token of gratitude. Naturally, everyone was happy about it. Everyone was excited, because all the wounds healed in an instant, and it seemed that there was much more strength than there was. Everyone was happy. Jason was also glad that he managed to save everyone. Looking at the joy of others, he thought that it was not the case to be attacked all the time. The fox was sitting on the ground talking to itself, cultivating and releasing a small amount of energy. Looking at the elder foxes, Jason thought that he could not trust them completely, because they were driven by fear. The guy also added that thanks to her, he will be able to win the favor of the demons and Shiran practitioners. Exhaling, he thought that he was glad that no one had died and that he had made it on time. Suddenly a system notification about a gift rang out. The young man was shocked by the effects in his head. Having opened it, he thought that there was some kind of valuable prize there, but he received 50,000 sphere points from it. The guy was disappointed. Jason, with the help of glasses, expanded his territory to 5,757 meters. Thanks to this he received the title of Lord of the Mountain, and received a mythical secret key. Opening it, Jason fell into a stupor. He didn't understand. He was even ashamed to hold it in his hand. After updating the sphere to 4.0, he smiled. His body began to absorb energy. The energy was enormous. It came from everywhere. A system notification notified our protagonist that he had received a perfect score for the feature. Having said that he would help the elders of the immortal clans become elders, they bowed to him. The girls looked into the distance, and discussed how they would like the elder to take them to the peak of the sphere. While sleeping, he earned 500 sphere points for the fact that his students increased the sphere. Looking at the sky, he thought it was time to see what was wrong with the clone. He closed his eyes, relaxing. Opening his eyes, he realized that he was lying on the ground, and some girl was standing in front of his eyes. He was tied up, and 3 girls stood around him, discussing some kind of arena and the fact that it was time to take him there. Looking at the girls, he asked where that demon cat was. Giggling, the girls told him to take better care of himself, as he would soon be someone's husband. Surprised, he stood up. He was being transported on some kind of cart. He thought about whether he had really fallen into slavery. Suddenly, huge rays of light appeared from behind his wall, and there were shouts that everyone was welcome to the tournament. Girls fought in the sky for the right to choose a husband. They fell from the sky one after another. The battle was fierce. Each wanted to win. When suddenly Jason was thrown onto some kind of platform. While flying away, the girls said that if the men fall, they will not bear any responsibility for it, so they should stand on it and not move. Jason, with the help of his strength, was able to untie himself. Some young man tried to talk to our main character, but he only looked at him with a contemptuous look. On the other hand, a man with red hair explained that this is the Valgium clan. Here every year capable men are kidnapped, and then they are presented as a prize in the tournament. Jason asked him that in this clan there are only girls and all are beautiful, to which the man replied that he is partly right. He is right that there are only girls in this clan, but every family has its own freak. Suddenly our main character felt a familiar aura. It was a demon cat. She jumped on some girl. The guy, sweating a little and pretending that he didn't know this girl, wanted to leave. Suddenly there were shouts of praise of beauty. It was Melissa. She was at the stage of the fifth nascent soul. Jason immediately swam from the girl's beauty. Suddenly the announcer announced that the battle was about to come to an end. The cat girl stood and begged that they would not touch her elder. All three men looked at Melissa and wanted to become her husband. But suddenly their faces changed. The white-haired man stood and said that she would choose him, because he was the most handsome of them. The red-haired one said that among the three, he looked the most like a man. The idea occurred to Jason that he just needed to deal with two candidates. The girl won one battle after another. The guys were happy because their beloved was winning. But on the other hand, another woman, similar to a man, also won. As soon as she won, the men's faces were covered with tears. From behind their backs, someone told them that they were quieter. 3 exhausted men stood in front of the guys, saying that it would be a joy if this woman wins, because her power is enormous. Jason stood in shock, looking at these guys. They told them that their wife would be the winner, because Melissa was participating in the tournament for the first time and she would not win. When suddenly there was a roar of cultivation, the fingers folded together. A huge ring filled with cultivation was thrown at our beautiful hero. But Melissa did not let go, but, having uttered divine streams, began to cultivate. Waves rose around the girl. There was an explosion. Because of the steam nothing was visible. No one could understand the outcome of the battle. Everyone was shocked by this turn of events. Suddenly the sound of heels was heard, and a woman was lying on the ground. Melissa stood next to her. The announcer announced Melissa's victory, and everyone began to loudly shout her name. The announcer also added that the girl should choose a man for herself. Pointing her finger, she said she was choosing this one. The white-haired guy was surprised because she chose him. But suddenly the girl said that she was not taking the white-haired man, but a man in white robes. This was our main character. The young man was surprised that he was chosen. The white-haired guy fell into a stupor. His body seemed to turn to stone. The cat girl was most shocked, because her eldest was being taken away. Everyone began to praise the guy, and a few minutes later they announced the beginning of the bridal chamber. The guy didn't quite understand what was happening. Sitting on the bed, he did not understand how everything had turned out so bad. The guy couldn't even imagine what was being done and how, because before that he was a virgin. The young man even for a second began to regret what was happening. Melissa, with her victory at the tournament and her achievements, wants to revive the former greatness of her family, so she should not give up and show her weaknesses, but only move forward. On the way to the tournament, they were attacked by demons, where they were able to fight them off with great difficulty. It so happened that at the tournament she met her half-brother, and she decided to establish friendly relations with him. However, she was fooled by him. He advised her to take the pill, but because of it, her spiritual powers were disrupted. Because of this, her reputation was ruined and many people turned away from her. She was given to the head as a slave. She eventually committed suicide and her body was left in the mountains. After rummaging through the system, Jason discovered something unfamiliar that was not there before. He wondered if this was really a prediction of the future. He thought that he had already seen this before, but it had never happened in such detail. When missions suddenly appeared in front of him, Jason saw that completing them could earn a huge amount of orb points, so he took them all. Slumping to the ground exhausted, Jason breathed a sigh of relief. He thought that he needed to wait for this girl and discuss everything with her. The sun rose, morning came. A cool and at the same time pleasant breeze blew. Jason woke up from crowing, wondering if she hadn't come yet, if she was ignoring him. Thinking that he would rather find her and help her, he wanted to become a support for her. As soon as he walked out the door, he saw 3 girls. They started poking at him, saying that the girl was unlucky, because the man could not satisfy her. The guy started shouting at them that everything was fine with him, and if any of them wanted to check, they could do it right now. The girls said that Melissa told them that our main character is only at the golden core stage, even the grass is higher, and she herself sent him on his way, abandoning him. The guy began to walk towards the departure from the mountain. The guy walked confused, because he had just been almost left without his pants. Because the girls really wanted to check whether he was all right and there were no problems. The guy thought that Melissa not only left him, but also ruined his reputation. Looking into the distance, the guy saw a ship. He thought that it was better to see once than to hear 100 times. It's great. When suddenly he heard some sounds from behind him, he turned around and smiled. His wife was standing in front of him. The guy told her that he heard that she was going on a journey and it was a long road. Someone had to take care of her, so he went with her. The guy added that he really wanted to go with her in order to protect her. The girl thought that the trip was of great importance, and everyone was busy preparing for it. She looked to the side and saw that all the girls were going on the journey with their husbands. She thought that all her sisters were taking their husbands on the journey for cultivation, and if she went alone, it would look strange. Turning towards the ship, she exhaled and told Jason to follow her. The girl added that the guy should call her madam. The young man agreed. A huge woman was sitting on a chair. She was being massaged. At this time she said that she could not believe that Misela was able to win the tournament. It was the head of their clan, JB. The girl bowed and said that she would never reject the principles of their family. But it was too early for her to taste the joys of life. Her husband also shared this. JB, exhaling smoke, briefly answered the girl that someday she would understand how powerful pear cultivation is. Leaning back on the chair, there was a small crash. The head of the clan began to speak about how they would show their strength at the All-China Horizontal Bar, which is held once every 300 years. At the time of the speech from the head, Jason only yawned. He was not interested in listening to it. The head of the clan continued her speech. Looking at Jason, JB added that if anyone bothered them, she would get rid of him. Jason smiled and showed that he understood everything. As she left, she told them not to kill each other. The ship began to move away from the mountain. It set off on a long journey. One of Melissa's sisters began to mock her, because she invited a guy with such a small cultivation with her. The second sister supported the bullying and added that it was simply reckless. Melissa just told the guy not to take even a step away from her. She asked him not to create problems, as she would not be able to protect him. The guy smiled and told her that he would follow her unquestioningly. 3 days later, a man stood not far from the ship. A mountain of dead people lay near him. From their conversations it was clear that someone ordered them to deal with the practitioners who were going to the All-China tournament. Seeing the ship of our heroes in the sky, they began to rejoice and say that new prey was coming into their hands. Feeling some small bursts of energy, their commander ordered them to quickly finish here, because something interesting was waiting for them. The ship was approaching, and a cold breeze began to blow outside. Standing and watching Melissa train, Jason thought that she was a real master, because she had not left the gym for 3 days. While the guy was looking at the girl's characteristics, she stumbled and was attacked. The guy asked her if she was okay. Our heroine became embarrassed. Moving back and raising her sword, the girl looked at our main character with an incomprehensible gaze. The girl screamed that she was not going to do this to him. The guy, making a face, said that he didn't mean that. He had something interesting for her that could make her stronger. The girl became even more embarrassed. Her face glowed. She threw a sword at him. The guy fell from surprise. The sword was sticking right between his legs. The guy was glad that he was endowed with such a good reaction, because any more and there would have been problems. Taking out some kind of scarf, he showed it to the girl and said that he only wanted to show her the talisman. With its help she could easily increase her level. The girl, still embarrassed, said that she thought the guy wanted her, but she said that she had never heard of anything like that. The girl added that talismans that can increase the level are immortal talismans. The guy answered her that she was saying everything correctly and that he had inherited it. Holding out the sword, the guy added that no one had ever complained about this talisman. The girl, taking the sword from Jason, said that talismans of this level could only be obtained in the upper kingdom or clans of immortals. She could not believe it. Turning away, The girl thought about how it was even possible to move to a new stage of cultivation using only a talisman. The guy, saying that he would continue now, put it on her forehead. The girl was shocked by the guy's actions. The guy, looking at her with a cold gaze, told her that she was his wife and in order for them to become one family, he had to sacrifice something, and she needed to become stronger to protect him. She looked at our main character in awe. The girl, taking a meditation pose, began to try to let the energy flow. The girl thought that she had just started, but she already felt much better. Melissa was shocked, because the rate of energy absorption continued to grow. Looking at Melissa, Jason thought that she had become stronger. When suddenly a huge wind rose, the release of energy was colossally huge. The girl released more and more energy with every second. Pointing to the test stone, the young man asked the girl to check how much stronger she had become. In the girl's hand was a purple stone that released small particles of energy. After pouring energy into it, the girl was shocked, because she had reached the 8th rank. Deep in thought, the guy thought that this was only the 8th rank. Even Amelia has the status of an immortal. Is the effect of this talisman really only 20% of the total power of all living things? The girl, looking at Jason, thought that if he had used it on himself, his abilities would have improved much, and he would have stopped being bullied. But he gave it to her. The embarrassed girl thanked our main character, and she also apologized for the first night. The guy was surprised by her words. She also added that she will explain everything to her sisters, but she cannot do this with him until she has feelings for him. Confused even more, she asked the young man whether he thought she was strange, to which he replied that it was nothing to worry about. When suddenly everything crackled and shook, the guy rushed to catch the fallen girl. The guy asked her what this noise could be. The girl, embarrassed by our hero's embrace, tried to move him away, saying that she would check what was happening there. Rushing to the door, she ran through it. When she entered, she was shocked by what was happening. In front of her stood her sisters and the head of the clan, armed and looking at the sky. Demons of the nascent soul were flying in the sky. The girl, angry, began to release energy into the sword. The demons just laughed, and were glad that there were so many beautiful girls on the ship. When suddenly an order came from the head of the clan for her sisters to kill everyone, they rushed into battle. Melissa, having started cultivation, also sent after her sisters. The demons continued to laugh and say that they had never seen such brave women before. Jason looked at the fight between the girls and the demon, and thought that some strange energy was emanating from these demons, negative and overwhelming. The guy also added that these demons are only in the sphere of the nascent soul and the girls must cope with them, especially the head of the clan. But looking closer, he realized that not everything is so simple. Turning around, he began to leave the deck. Smiling, he thought that if he followed this terrifying aura, he would be able to find their lair, and everything would become clear there. The guy, jumping from the ship, began to move at incredible speed along the mountain, descending lower and lower. Having found his target, he saw several hooded people. Their conversation dissolved. Jason, attacking the man from behind, didn't even notice our main character. For killing the nascent soul cultivator, our hero received 1,200 orb points. Suddenly some red thing appeared. Everyone sat and discussed how, thanks to this thing, they would become even stronger. Jason learned from their conversations that their owner was from the Upper Kingdom. Jason asked the other men how they were going to fight stronger enemies if they were defeated, but the man sitting next to him shut him up, telling him that as long as they had this heart, their comrades who were dying would be reborn one after the other. Laughing at the Melissa clan, they told Jason that he was lucky, because he joined them in time. The guy was embarrassed. His look was murderous. When suddenly one of the men's hand caught fire, Jason asked him what he should be grateful for. Jason, looking at him and smiling, replied that he was the one who would become their executioner. Letting his immortal hand towards the red heart, the guy said that it was not in vain that he descended from the ship, because he not only raised the sphere's glasses, but also learned about the enemy's plans. A system alert announced that the owner had successfully thwarted the plans of hostile cultivators. The plot had been rewritten, and for this he received 5,000 sphere points. Suddenly the demons felt that something was wrong, which confused them. Melissa did not stop attacking the demons. All the girls around said that they thought that the demons were much stronger, but one Melissa realized that as soon as they arrived, they felt more confident, as if they had an ace up their sleeve. But something went wrong and they lost fighting spirit. The head immediately rushed to her husbands, who in turn said that they would heal the wounds of their mistress in the chambers. The wounded girl left her sisters. Because they were all hugging and kissing their husbands, she was sad. Entering the training room, she did not see Jason. She was wondering where he had gone. Suddenly, from behind her, she heard the word mistress, and she turned around and saw a young man. The guy immediately approached the girl and asked whether she was so wounded, to which Melissa replied that she just had a scratch. Grabbing her hand, the guy pulled her towards him, saying that a scratch is also a wound. With a serious look, the guy added that she should take off her clothes, because they were in the way. Confused, the girl thought that the guy really wanted to do this. Melissa began to undress. She asked the guy to be more gentle with her, when suddenly the guy, clutching, began to shout that he meant to take off his outer clothing, and not to undress completely. Then the girl, grabbing a bottle of liquid, said that she could handle it herself. A loud slam of doors was heard. The guy stood on the street looking at the door. The guy didn't understand why she was so furious. A week later, they were already approaching their destination. The sound of seagulls was heard. A pleasant breeze was blowing. The weather was festive. Suddenly Jason was overcome with joy, because they had arrived after so long. As soon as they approached the city, the announcer greeted them on their arrival. He also added that the tournament, which takes place once every 300 years, will begin soon, and she also added that they invited the eldest from the Mountain of Immortals, Jason. The guy, coming down from the ship, almost fell when he heard his name. When everyone suddenly began to greet the ruler of the Demon Cap Mountain, Jason immediately realized that they were greeting Sia's father. Sia's father, ruler Bradval, came down from the ship. The ruler of the neighboring city, the girl Mia, also arrived with him. Everyone was in anticipation of the elder, because the immortal himself, the one who was able to defeat 12 immortals, would come to them for the tournament. When suddenly everyone screamed that Grand Master Jason had arrived. All the girls were delighted with his appearance, because they thought he was beautiful. The girls immediately surrounded the guy and began asking him questions about his strength, to which the guy proudly replied that he would not allow someone from the higher kingdom to attack the lower kingdom, and do whatever they wanted. Everyone was embarrassed by his appearance, but they could only hear everyone praising him. At this moment, he thought that thanks to Jason's name he could get rich. When Jason saw his copycat, the guy got angry. A system notification announced that because of this the mission might not be completed. Fake Jason didn't stop playing around with their ears. He gave them gifts. Melissa, looking at the craft, did not understand why it was so famous. Then, from behind her, her sisters also rushed to him, telling him about his exploits. The girl, looking at him, thought that, in her opinion, her husband looked much more courageous than this Jason. Having kicked the real Jason and forced the fake one to fly away, our hero was angry. Everyone was shocked by Jason's behavior. Melissa was especially shocked, because he is her husband and he is now doing something incomprehensible. Fake Jason said that it's okay, because no one should be angry. Nothing serious happened. The guy apologetically thought that this imposter didn't have much time left. Hiding his real face behind a joyful smile, he thought about the next time he would kill our main character. Jason hit the imposter again, sending him flying. The guy apologized a second time, saying that he had confused him with his old friend. Everyone was shocked by the fact that he was wrong for the second time. Trying to parody how he was praised, he looked towards the imposter. Fake Jason held his head, not understanding what was happening, but the guy did not stop imitating the others and praised him. The imposter looked at our hero with a murderous gaze, thinking that he should be more careful next time. Everyone started shouting at our main character. They were defending the eldest. The imposter thought that it was still beneficial for him to be the immortal Jason, so he would be generous and forgive him for it. Melissa's sisters began to attack Jason, telling him to be several thousand times more careful next time. The head of the clan also began to yell at the guy, telling him that one more such prank and he would be sent back. The girl thought that they both had the same names and she couldn't understand whether it was a coincidence, or whether they had something to do with each other. Everything was ready. The ceremonial start of the tournament was announced. Our young man sat and watched his imitator deceive everyone. Solemn introductions began from each ruler. Each ruler said that they were glad that every 300 years they gathered to see each other. When suddenly Brad was interrupted by Zeklif. Zeklif mocked Brad, and also added that the tournament was an excellent opportunity to conclude a truce between all of them, after which he drank. Mia was next in line. She also said that she was glad to see everyone. Having finished her speech, she sat down near Bradval. She asked why he was without his daughter Sia, but the man only laughed. Looking at Mia, he asked what she thought about the participants, to which she replied that everyone is quite capable and energetic, and she is very curious who will become the leader this year. Suddenly there was a knock on the table. Zeus said that his sect would be the winner, because they won last year and are not going to fall behind this year. Zeklif only said that one should not wag his tongue, but prove it in practice. Screams were heard and Jason's name was heard. Everyone thought that they had never seen such majestic handsome men, especially the immortal Jason. Approaching the rulers, they greeted him. Everyone paid tribute to our fake Jason by showering him with praise. But then the impostor interrupted them, telling them to consider him just a guest. Everyone stood and discussed him, because everyone knew about his exploits and he was considered the strongest on their continent. Also, everyone was discussing how merciful he was, because he spared some ordinary golden core practitioner, although he was disrespectful to him. Our main character, hearing this, began to tremble from these words. The guy also began to praise Jason. The sisters behind his back told him to be careful with his words. Some girl and man said they had the same opinion about Jason. The girl looked at the smiling guy, not understanding why he was in such a good mood. At that moment, Jason received a system notification that his status had now been upgraded to famous, and for this he was awarded 10,000 points. Our main character thought great, because thanks to this imposter he can achieve his goals. Smiling and giggling evilly, the young man said that he would give his personality to him for a while. He also added that he was interested in how far he could go. Brad couldn't stop praising Jason as he poured him alcohol. The imposter accepted praise and also tried to elevate himself even more with his stories. Zeklif also joined Brad, also beginning to praise the young man. But the guy tried not to become too arrogant, saying that he shouldn't be praised. Donald joined them, talking about giving the treasure to an immortal. The guy immediately understood what kind of treasure we were talking about and was glad, because thanks to this he could get rich. Everyone also understood what he was talking about, and everyone understood that if he was not lying and he really managed to improve it, then among the 9 rulers he would have no equal. The guy, looking at the treasure, asked Donald why he should help him. The ruler was shocked by the words of the immortal. Closing his eyes and thinking, the ruler thought about how to respond to the elder's words. The guy was amazed by the very fact that the phoenix was so beautiful. Smiling, he replied that if he could help him, then the legendary medicine of the immortal phoenix would be his gratitude to him. Smiling, the guy looked into his cultivation. He held some kind of seed in his hand. He began to pour energy into it. Sia's father immediately realized that it was a relic of the Buddha from Sumeru. Zeus cried out that in his long life he had seen only 5 immortal treasures and could not believe that the master would have 2. Donald never stopped asking Jason for help. The guy agreed and also added that if anyone else needs help, then he is ready to help for the treasure. Everyone was surprised by his words, but a moment later, a crowd with treasures was already standing near him and everyone was asking Jason for something. The guy took the treasures and fed the promises of everyone who gave them to him. The rulers also began to turn to him, and he also agreed with their requests. The Real Jason stood and clapped his hands from the side, smiling. That same night, our main character jumped on the roofs. Looking through one of the windows, he saw and laughed. The impostor stood in front of him, looking lustfully at the treasures, saying that he had fooled everyone so easily. He kissed and licked the treasures. He also added that before he left, he should teach a lesson to this arrogant guy who dared to hit him, to which Jason asked how he was going to do it. Beating the guy with his fists, Jason thought about how not to kill him. Having tied the guy in a bag, the young man took out another one and began to put the treasures there. Smiling, he looked at the huge amount of treasures, remembering how the impostor enjoyed them, and now he will take them for himself. Looking at the bag, he never stopped smiling, listening to the pitiful moans coming from it. The impostor screamed and asked to stop, but Jason continued to hit him, trying as before not to kill him. When suddenly our main character thought that the bag had released some kind of spirit, Jason thought that he had gone too far. Looking at the bag and shaking out his hands, the guy thought that he had done an excellent job today. Jason continued to put the treasures into his bag. You fooled people, but I'm not bad at you. Continuing to giggle, some girl opened the window, and what she saw shocked her. She screamed because she saw the elder hanging from the window. The guy, having woken up, tried to pretend that everything was as it should be, so he told her not to panic, because this was his secret method of cultivation. The embarrassed girl stood in front of the window and wondered if naked cultivation was really that great. Seeing that his treasures and artifacts were missing, the impostor flew into a rage. He was already making a plan in his head on how he would take revenge on our main character. At this time our young man was sneezing, jumping across the roofs. He noticed Melissa, and some guy was standing next to her. He wondered what a man and a girl could do alone at such a late hour. Grasping himself, he thought about whether this was really a secret meeting. Jason, listening to their conversation, heard that the guy was offering the girl to become his wife. The guy, taking Melissa by the head, added that his father would be able to help Melissa's family, but she hit him on the hand and shouted that he shouldn't even dream about it. The girl screamed that his family was a herd of ungrateful pigs who were always trying to ruin her family. Our main character watched what was happening, thinking that the son of her father's old friend was the source of all the problems. In response, the guy began to tell the girl that sooner or later her family would end anyway, and he was even glad that she still had the strength to resist him. Grabbing Melissa by the face, the guy told her that thanks to him, she wouldn't have to worry about anything and she wouldn't starve somewhere in the alley. When suddenly Jason appeared from behind him and greeted him, the guy was scared by this. Trying to jump away, he shouted about what kind of idiot he was. Before he could do this, a fist flew straight into his face. Melissa didn't even have time to react. The guy was already lying on the ground. Melissa screamed to Jason. She didn't understand where he came from, to which our main character told her not to worry. With a grin on his face, Jason asked him if he was too weak, because he hit him weakly, but he flew so far away. Rising from the ground, the guy got angry and beat the ground with his fists. He rushed towards our main character. Having said that the girl should not rely on her protector, he added that he would finish them both off. Melissa said with an angry face that she would never forget what she did to his family, and would take revenge on him. Taking Jason's hand, she began to lead him away. As we left, our hero looked back and grinned. The guy stood and got angry. He said that he would make me regret today. He talked about turning him into a pig man so that he could feel all the delights of his miserable life. Suddenly the guy's body began to overflow with incomprehensible energy. His body felt like it was starting to burn. He couldn't handle it. A few moments later, not even ashes remained from his body. A system notification notified our hero that for changing the fate of Melissa, he was receiving a reward in the form of 20,000 sphere points. The night was beautiful. The blooming flowers filled us with joy. Approaching their chambers, the girl and the guy stood and thought that the sisters know how to have fun, as evidenced by the sounds coming from their rooms. The guy, rubbing his nose, told the girl that she needed a good rest today, so he would spend the night in another room. But she stopped him by grabbing his hand. She pressed herself against him, her face flushed with embarrassment. There was a slight crash of doors. It was a roar from Jason's back hitting the doors. Melissa pressed him against them. Grabbing his other hand, she also pressed it against the door, after which she pressed herself close to our main character. The guy did not understand what was happening. The girl asked the guys to sit like this for a while. The guy was embarrassed, because the girl smelled very tasty. The guy began to feel embarrassed, because Melissa's body was incredibly soft. The guy told her that he would sit with her as long as he wanted, stroking her head. The girl pressed herself closer to the guy even more. She asked him or did he hear what they were talking about with that guy, to which Jason answered her that he heard. Starting to sob, Melissa asked our protagonist why they were so cruel to her family, because her family had done nothing wrong. Wiping her tears, our hero calmed the heroine. The girl thought that the guy smelled delicious and was comfortable with him. She wanted him to always hug her. Looking at Jason, the girl remembered the words of the chapter. She said that physical contact improves and develops feelings for each other. Melissa kissed our hero. Jason was shocked by the girl's actions. The guy was overwhelmed with feelings. The girl jumped away from embarrassment, saying that it was time for them to rest. The guy was disappointed, because he expected more. Sobbing, he thought that a normal guy would not have withstood such torture. His patience went off scale. After all, such a beauty was lying next to him, clinging to him. Meanwhile, darkness developed in the remote mountains. Someone said that human cultivators could not even be reborn. These grains of spiritual energy had to be collected for an eternity. Some girl stood and said that the lower kingdom was just a backwater and needed to be completely destroyed. It was the immortal demon Lily. She was the reincarnation of Azura. Holding the Azura decree in her hand, she shed a drop of blood on him, because he would force 10,000 souls of demons of the highest realm to obey. When suddenly a hand came out of the ground, the girl screamed that she commanded them to rise up in the name of the kingdom of immortal Azuras. A horde of skeletons appeared. Looking at them with delight, the girl added that they should follow her to the All-China tournament, to which they agreed, because they could not disobey her. The next day, the first stage of battles was underway at the tournament. The battle involved a huge number of participants. The sounds of the battle were carried for many, many kilometers around. The goal of the first stage was to collect tokens. If you lose them, you are automatically disqualified. Screams were heard and energy filled the area. Many tried to defeat our main character, because everyone considered him a weakling. But he fought, preventing his token from being stolen, without showing his full strength. Grabbing his opponent between his legs, he took away the token. Someone tried to attack our main character from behind, but then Melissa appeared, saying that no one dared to touch her husband. The guy told her that he already had 200 points in his pocket, and needed to continue in the same spirit. The announcer said that the battles were really serious. The participants were eliminated one after another. Recliff said that this year there are good participants, but they are far from his warriors. Brad just smiled while watching the tournament. Suddenly the announcer said that the Gloria family had arrived at the tournament along with its ruler Raph. He is an immortal killer. Recliff, looking at him, said that the pressure of his power was even stronger than that of the immortal Jason. Having sat down at the table, Brad immediately saluted the leading family. He talked about how they had recently been able to destroy the surviving family members from the Immortal Mountain. Laughing evilly, he told this, and also added that they did not ignore the question of the location of the body of eternity. Discontent was visible on the faces of some rulers, and fear on others. When the end of the first stage was suddenly announced, Recliff said out loud that he did not understand how the Golden Core Cultivator could remain intact. Raph, interrupting the old man, said that this family shows a good level. Brad added that the guy was incredibly lucky to pass the first stage. Suddenly Raph's face changed. He said that these clothes belong to the longevity sect. Are they really not all exterminated yet? The rest of the rulers were shocked by this, because thanks to this, they will be able to find out where the body of eternity is. Brad asked Raph again, or he was not mistaken. Everyone was shocked by this, because it was really he who saved that girl then. Mia told them not to judge by just one piece of fabric, because it is too stupid. Cray told them that even if he doesn't have an eternity body, he managed to survive among the demons, so he should definitely know about its whereabouts. The old man added that the upper realm had a habit of invading them. If they could get this body, then their strength would be against the immortals. Brad cried out that it was so. Raph added that he had already thought of a way to force him to confess. When suddenly Jason was notified by a system notification that some evil intentions in the owner's relationship were about to happen. The guy was wary, because he realized that he could be recognized. Brad pointed his fingers at our main character and said that the participants in the tournament must be at least at the level of the nascent soul, but not the golden core, and for attempting to deceive, he is summoned to the chambers of the rulers. Melissa grabbed the guy's hand, trying to convince everyone of his strength. The guy told her that she didn't need to help him, because she still needed to win the tournament. The girl tried to go with him to the rulers, but he carefully covered her mouth with his finger. The guy added that she should try hard and win, so that when he returned to kiss the strongest girl in the All-China tournament, the girl would answer him that she would try very hard, and so that the guy would return quickly, because a surprise awaits him. Entering the chambers, the guards cried out that a criminal had arrived. The girls from the Melissa clan thought only that their clan would not be involved in his crime. Cray, releasing some of her energy, said that Mia was right, because judging by one piece of fabric is wrong, so she will test his abilities with the help of her strength. The old man laughed, and Brad said that someone from the longevity sect simply wouldn't participate in the tournament. In any case, he had some kind of cunning plan. Raph, drinking some liquid, said that if he was in the sphere of the nascent soul, then they would interrogate him more gently, because it would be sad if he simply died. Jason began to release his true power. In just a few seconds his power reached the 4th stage of divine transformation. Cray screamed that his power was a divine sphere. The old man, releasing a huge amount of energy, told him to speak. He was trying to intimidate him. His power eclipsed the chambers of the rulers. They demanded that he tell where they hid the body of eternity. The guy thought about how to make sure that he did not violate the rules of the mission and did not spoil Melissa's fate. Smiling, He thought about whether he could fight back, whether he could become the ruler of China, whether he should reveal his true identity. Cray couldn't finish testing the abilities of our main character. She couldn't understand, because his cultivation sphere never stopped growing, already a purification sphere. Raph told the old man not to rush, because he scared him. The young man was speechless. The immortal killer, looking at the guy, told him not to be afraid. They would not cause him any harm. He just needed to tell him everything he knew about the body of eternity. And he also added that he would not mind having fun with his wife one-on-one. When suddenly his aura began to leave his body, and his voice changed to a more sinister one, he added that he was afraid that soon there might be nothing left of our main character. The rulers were shocked, because the aura was too powerful. It made them tremble. When suddenly a hand appeared in front of the face of the killer of immortals. In an instant, this hand was already on his face, pushing him. Without allowing the rulers to finish, Jason had already stuck Raph into the ground. Raph didn't expect this turn of events. He tried to attack Jason, but Jason calmly stopped his powerful blow. When Jason suddenly struck him straight in the face, his teeth began to fall out. His blows were too fast for Raph to see them. The roar and blows echoed throughout the ruler's chambers, and dust rose. Everyone was shocked by the strength of the young man. A real monster stood in front of them. Even Raph could not block a single blow from this guy. Having ascended to the rulers, the guy released a small amount of aura, which suppressed the power of the rulers. Leaning on the chair in the center, he smiled. He sat in it, crossed his legs and laughed. A system notification notified him that due to Jason shocking the rulers, the third random mission had been completed and the reward was 20,000 orb points. The rulers immediately fell to their knees and began praising our protagonist. Jason told them that he wanted to know the true reason for the destruction of the longevity sect, and whoever remained silent would have to deal with him. A real monster sat in front of them, because some of the rulers in front of him could not even breathe. The head of the Melissa clan suggested that he was the real immortal Jason, the head of the Mountain of Immortals. The guy, releasing energy, asked who was the main initiator of the destruction of the longevity sect. All the rulers were silent. They were sweating in front of him. Releasing even more energy, the old man began spitting blood. The guy said that he would now destroy all of them so that the souls of the followers of the longevity sect would find peace. All the rulers began to spit blood. Their spirit was broken in an instant. Suddenly the old man screamed that he would tell everything. This was the work of the devilish Buddha sect. They forced them to do this in order to get the body of eternity. The guy looked at him with a contemptuous look. Some have already begun to ask for mercy and tried to make excuses that it was not they who did it. Brad called everyone stupid, because they will die anyway. He thought about how he could survive in this situation. The guy told them that the interrogation was over and he no longer needed them, released even more energy. The girls from the Melissa sect trembled in front of him, because he had such a murderous look. They thought about having someone explain to him that if he killed them, then chaos would begin on the continent. When suddenly the system notification interrupted the guy, it said that the All-China tournament was not over yet, and killing the rulers could lead to a negative impact on the mission. The guy thought that as soon as the missions were completed, he would kill them all. When suddenly an imposter entered the chambers. Seeing that the rulers were on their knees, he did not understand what was happening. Brad thought that with the help of another Jason he could try to defeat this monster. Turning to him, he asked him to be careful, because a real monster was standing in front of him. Having said that the monster did not have long left, he walked towards our main character. Our hero thought this was a great chance to demonstrate his strength and gain even more support from these turkeys. The imposter screamed for the demon to run away, because otherwise he would be finished. As he got closer, he saw Jason. Under the weight of his own body, he rushed to the ground, breaking the floor. The fake was crying about how his eyes hurt. Brad couldn't understand how the immortal Jason himself couldn't defeat this practitioner. Walking towards the fake, Jason asked him how he should go by his name. The imposter asked the guy who he was, to which the young man replied that he was the head of the Divine Valley, as well as the Lord of the Mountain of Immortals, and his name was Jason. The rulers were shocked because they had been misled. The imposter now understood why he was able to hit him so easily and then steal without fear of consequences. Our main character took a swing, when suddenly the imposter's body began to burn. Brad was shocked. He tried to say something. He asked for mercy, or rather, he begged for it. Jason leaned towards him and said that he was not going to kill anyone. After waiting a little, he added that for now, The system notification did not stop rewarding our main character. The guy thought that the final stage was already coming to an end. Jason turned to the rulers and told them that they would all follow him, so that they would all smile and wave, and also told them to say that Jason did not take anything forbidden. At this time, Melissa was already fighting in the final stage. She used the 9th stream of divine current to strike her enemy. A column of dust rose until no one could determine whether the battle was over, as the announcer announced that he congratulated the girl on her victory. When suddenly there was a roar in the sky began to emit a huge amount of energy. The people who came to watch the tournament were shocked, because the power was incredible. Jason received a system notification that an opponent, an immortal Azura reincarnation demon, had been detected. Lily came down from the sky, laughing. It seemed that under her power, the sky was divided into 2 parts. The main character immediately realized that this was the reincarnation of Azura. He thought that this was the second one in such a short period of time. He was wondering what their true goal was. The rulers stood and were angry, because to invade during the All-China tournament is low. The reincarnation looked at them with contempt. It was funny to her that some insects dared to drive her out. But then Pussycat's father and May continued. They tried to send Lily back. Suddenly, huge skeletons began to appear from behind the demon. There were countless of them. They made terrible sounds. Their screams could be heard many, many kilometers around. Looking at the 9 rulers, Lily was glad, because he would not have to look for them separately. He gave the order to destroy them all. Suddenly all the skeletons rushed into battle, taking out their weapons. The smell of metal rose in the air. Screams seemed to spread across the entire continent. A battle broke out between the skeletons and the cultivators. The battle was brutal, because no one was going to take hostages. Some of the cultivators began to run away. Because they were overcome by fear, they did not want to die. The skeletons destroyed the cultivators in every possible way. The smell of blood was in the air, and screams were heard. Lily thought that these squeals were already annoying. There was no elegance in this. He screamed so that the skeletons would deal with everything as quickly as possible. May, using her most powerful techniques, gave the order for everyone to focus on protecting the people. Those who had not seen her before were shocked that the girl would give such orders. Brad Al, fighting off the skeletons, said that there are too many of them and this is very bad, because not only are there many of them, but they are also strong. Recliff added that if nothing changes, then everyone will simply die. Now they must rely on Jason's strength. Donald saw how his comrade was killed. His eyes filled with despair. He wanted revenge. Rushing towards Lily, he wanted to figure it out, because without a commander, the skeletons would retreat. The demon said that he was crazy, looking at the ruler approaching him. Suddenly a skeleton appeared and pierced our hero right in the stomach with his spear. The blow went right through. It seemed that blood would now flood the entire earth. Spitting blood, Donald thought that this power was incredible. At this time, sounds of breaking armor and bones were heard not far from the main battlefield. It was Melissa who cut down one skeleton after another, demonstrating her incredible strength. But suddenly, the skeletons that had been broken by her began to recover and return to their form. The girl thought that it really wouldn't be possible to kill them. The girl thought that her husband was in danger, because these skeletons were very strong and he would not be able to resist them. Suddenly the girl felt danger. Her face looked scared. A skeleton was already flying towards her from behind. The girl wanted to dodge the blow. But suddenly she fell. Her body became weak. The girl could not move. When suddenly someone stopped such a powerful blow with just 2 fingers. It was our main character. He destroyed the demon of the realm of immortal Azuras in the blink of an eye. The system notification told him that for killing him he receives 5,000 sphere points. Extending his hand to Melissa, our main character asked the girl if she was okay. The girl looked at the guy in surprise, when suddenly he received a system notification that after completing a random mission, our hero would not be able to maintain a contract with Melissa, as this could entail certain negative consequences. Jason screamed at Lily to leave the kingdom, because it was unsafe here. The girl was thinking that she would protect her husband. She needed to hold out for a little while, after which the rulers would sort everything out. Suddenly Recliff appeared begging Jason to help him deal with this monster. JB and her deputy followed him to beg, and they also begged him. Brad also began to beg our hero, adding that if he doesn't help, then it's all over for them. Melissa did not understand what kind of end we were talking about if all 9 rulers were here with her. whose power was immeasurable. Also, the girl did not understand why everyone hoped so much for her husband. The guy stood and looked at the ground. He thought that if he could change everything, he would try. Making a dull look, he thought that he was overcome by boredom from the lack of a worthy opponent. Lily, pointing her finger at our main character, said that useless cockroaches can only count on someone's help. When suddenly the guy was surrounded by skeleton demons, the guy stood motionless. Having raised his finger and began to cultivate, the guy said the decree that he was himself and began to wave it. Suddenly, skeletons began to fall, and our main character was rewarded with orb points by a system notification. Everyone was surprised, because no matter how hard no one tried, they couldn't even destroy one. And then with just a small swing, several at once, everyone believed that he was the only one they could rely on. The reincarnation of Azura said that he had underestimated him, adding that the guy was still capable of something. When Jason suddenly disappeared, he began to wonder where he had gone. But the guy was already near the demon, saying that visitors from the higher kingdom irritate him. He began to cultivate. When suddenly he slapped him in the face, a direct hit on the reincarnation. The slap was so powerful that there was a roar from the impact. The attacks of our main character did not stop. One after another he struck Lily, not allowing her to fight back in any way. Having struck harder, he threw the demon straight into the ground. The ground broke, and a roar from the blow was heard. The demon took out Azura's decree. The demon was furious, because some insect from the lower kingdom allows itself to harm a member from the higher kingdom. Spitting blood, Lily could not contain his anger. But his body no longer obeyed. The blows were so powerful that his body could not rise. When suddenly he saw a leg in front of him, the speed of the impact was so great that the leg was distorted in space. With the words that he should return from where he came, Jason dealt a crushing blow to the demon. It seemed that the earth was broken in half. Reflex said that what they saw during the interrogation was only a small part of his power, because he definitely restrained it, otherwise none of the rulers would have survived. Everyone began to discuss how a person in the realm of the Golden Core could be so strong, but then JB interrupted them, telling them that the real immortal Jason was standing in front of them. Everyone thought that they had humiliated such a strong person. They thought that it was all over for them. Melissa thought that she had long noticed that her husband was not as simple as it might seem at first glance. At this time, Jason held Lily by the throat and asked him why cultivators from the upper realm were coming down here, what they were trying to do. But Lily exhaled and grinned. Jason didn't understand why he was so happy. Holding the talisman, Azura, in his hand, he said that Jason should not be arrogant, because he is scum from the lower kingdom. Suddenly there was a colossal release of energy. Its amount was incredibly huge. The earth shook, an incredible amount of energy was released. Stones lying on the ground began to rise into the air. The reincarnation of Azura screamed for Elder Jean to kill him. Due to the large release of energy, there was an explosion that caused ordinary cultivators to fall to the ground, and the wind rose at great speed. Everyone shouted in fear that this was an immortal from a higher realm. Recliff said that this immortal had a much greater aura than the older Jason. Donald added that they were all over. An immortal appeared before them, and only when he appeared did he say that Lily had become much weaker than she was. He laughed at his subordinate, because he needed help to defeat some insect from the lower world. This amused him. Suddenly Jason took a powerful blow. He was thrown back several tens of meters. There was a roar. Dust rose. Nothing was visible what happened to Jason. As soon as the dust cleared, they saw Jason lying on the ground, motionless. The wall had been broken. Melissa immediately cried out in alarm. She was worried about her husband. Following her, May and Brad all cried out. From their eyes it was clear that they thought the battle was lost. Jean said that his stay in the lower kingdom was limited in time. He laughed, but Lily urged him on and told him to kill him quickly. Suddenly, a system notification notified our protagonist that due to the arrival of an immortal from a higher kingdom, whose power is not limited by the law of the lower kingdom, this indicates that the clone is under threat. Ono asked Jason if he wanted to replace it with a higher level model. It said that at the moment there were not enough points, but in such situations she was ready to give credit for him. Approaching the main character, Jean said that he was truly tenacious, since he did not die after such a powerful blow. Brad and Bredval lay on the ground without strength. They said that it was all over. Even the powerful Elder Jason was not able to defeat the immortal Elder. Jean laughed and said that if it weren't for the laws of the lower kingdom about limiting strength, Then any insect born in the upper kingdom could defeat anyone here. All the people from the lower kingdom are just a bunch of people incapable of anything. He looked at Jason with contempt, because he understood that in this world there is no one stronger than him, and there will not be anyone. He is powerful here. Having burst out that he wanted to test how many blows the strongest from the lower kingdom could withstand, he began to cultivate. Melissa screamed in alarm again. She began to worry even more about her husband. She rushed towards him, cutting one of the skeletons in half. At that moment, Lily screamed that the skeletons should not stand still, but destroy them all. At this moment, the improvement of Jason's body was already completed. He said that he would now demonstrate what real power was. Jean was shocked that the guy was able to stand up, and also that his cultivation had become much higher than it was at the time of his appearance. Jason's aura terrified everyone. He said that loud songs should be punished, because he had forgotten what a whip was. The immortal elder immediately attacked our main character, because he thought that the guy still had trump cards, so he needed to be killed as soon as possible. The guy smiled, because his power is now much higher than this immortal. He attacked him with such speed that the immortal could not even see the attack. Jason told him that because of him he went into debt, but it's okay, because he will repay this debt, thanks to him. The blow was so powerful that Jean flew from one wall to another. The column of dust was so huge that it overshadowed the entire territory where the tournament was taking place. As soon as the dust cleared, everyone around saw a familiar picture. Only this time Jean lay motionless. Moving away a little from the blow, he jumped up shouting that Jason's sphere of cultivation had become much stronger. He asked the guy how he managed it. When suddenly a guy appeared right in front of the immortal elder, he was shocked by his speed. The guy told him that it was a pity that they were not on his mountain. He again attacked him with a powerful attack, forcing him to fly several tens of meters back. Jean was shocked by the power of some person from the lower realm, because such power is impossible here. The immortal general immediately jumped up. He could not understand where such power came from. Jean began to cultivate, his cultivation gathering in his hands. A huge skeleton appeared behind him. The power of the skeleton was equal to its size. It seemed that with one wave of his hand he would destroy entire mountains. But Jason stood motionless, smiling. He told him to prepare for death, and waved his hand. The air around our protagonist was distorted, and his energy began to move towards the immortal general. Our hero's aura covered the entire area where the tournament was taking place, and a slight breeze rose. The skeletons began to disappear, one by one. Even the skeletons screamed in pain. The strength of our young man destroyed not only the physical shell, but also the mental one. Jean was shocked again. His most powerful attack was as easily repelled as he thought. Zeus only said that such power was impossible for the lower kingdom. Lily also stood in bewilderment, because how could Elder Jean, the immortal general, be defeated by some child? Our main character stood and smiled, asking the elder if this was all he could do. The immortal's face was covered in sweat. He said that at the moment all he could do was get out of here and report what was happening. Let them send a more powerful immortal. He rushed towards Lily. He wanted him to hold him back while Jean ran away. But the guy was already overwhelmed with energy. He told them that they had come to their senses too late. He destroyed the immortal's head with one swing, his face cold. Jin's body began to burn. A system notification announced that for defeating the immortal general of the first stage, he would receive 1,000,000 points, as well as one chest of salted fish. Approaching Lily, incredible power still emanated from Jason. The reincarnation of the Azura asked to spare him, but the guy, interrupting him, said that now he was asking questions and asked why they come here and attack. Lily thought that it was already pointless to do anything. His army was all destroyed, and the elder was killed. There was no point in denying it. After thinking about it, he replied that their goal was to capture the tripod of 9 regions. Looking closely at the immortal, Jason asked him why he was needed for the higher kingdom. Lily answered reverently that whoever owns the tripod of the 9 regions controls the fate of the entire continent, and therefore is the ruler. Pointing his finger at the rulers, Lily added that each of the rulers has a tripod of territory accountable to him. If they are combined, they will get a tripod of 9 regions. All the rulers stood in shock, because they did not know that the highest kingdom had such information. Our young man thought that he now understands why the system warned him that killing the rulers could significantly complicate the completion of the 3rd random mission, because to complete it you need a tripod of 9 regions. The immortal added anxiously that he had told everything, so he asked our main character whether he would let him go. Jason said that he was free. Lily's body began to burn. As he laughed, not looking back at Lily's squeals. At this time, silence reigned in the higher realm. When the door suddenly opened, a guy ran in with the words that the revered immortal genie and Lily had been defeated. Lord Immortal Lord Azura appeared before us, angrily saying that these idiots were only sent to death. He told him to call Hun, and he answered, bowing, "That's right." The Lord thought that because of this incident he would become a laughing stock in the eyes of other powerful immortals. He needed to send more warriors to the lower realm before it was too late. At this time, silence also reigned in the Rainbow City, and a mesmerizing breeze was blowing. Witch Girl told the Immortal Lord that a scout from the Azura Kingdom arrived and reported that the immortals sent to the lower kingdom were destroyed without the possibility of reincarnation. The Immortal Lord smiled and said that the territory of the 9 regions is truly an amazing place. She also added that the girl told everyone that no one entered into a fight with Jason. During this time in the lower realm, Jason was cultivating, releasing a huge amount of his energy. Jason destroyed one Azura skeleton after another. He did not want to leave anyone. Everyone stood and screamed about how beautiful their eldest was. Jason, seeing how many points were added, was in 7th heaven. When Melissa suddenly ran up to him, she cried out, trembling, "Husband." She asked the guy if he was okay. Her eyes were full of tears. Jason, lost, replied that everything was fine, wondering if she was really in such a hurry to get here. When suddenly there were screams, Sia ran towards Jason. Screaming that she had finally found him, she jumped on Jason. When suddenly he threw it away with the words that there was nothing like that between them. Before he could finish speaking, Melissa pressed herself into Jason. She anxiously talked about the guy letting her inspect everything. Jason told her that everything was fine, only bruises all over her body, but considerate that she got off lightly. When suddenly the system alert started telling him. It said that further communication with Melissa could lead to a detrimental effect on her. Jason became angry, his eyes filled with hatred. He lightly pushed the girl away from him and took a few steps back. Stepping back, he told the girl to watch her behavior. Melissa was shocked by the guy's words and actions. Jason, turning away, stood and looked to the side. The girl could not even move from surprise. Suddenly some sounds were heard from behind him. Turning around, he saw something that shocked him. All 9 rulers stood holding tripods in their hands. Everyone stood in shock, because if the eldest agreed to become the lord of the 9 regions, then they would no longer need to fear the invasion of the upper realm. Melissa asked Jason whether he would agree. The girl thought that since her husband had shown his true strength, their relationship had cooled sharply. She also thought that if he became the ruler of 9 regions, would she be able to remain his wife? The guy immediately realized that they wanted to use him as a shield. Smiling, he said that he had a lot of problems and was not worthy of this title. Suddenly everyone started shouting that they couldn't live without their elder. May said that at present only he could take this place. The guy smiled and told them that he would now check the sincerity of their intentions. He said that they knew about the conspiracy against the longevity sect, but did nothing. Everyone started shouting that it was time to unite the lower kingdom. Brad was angry because his family was mostly to blame, and he didn't know how it would end. Recliffe put his hand on Brad's shoulder and told him to calm down. Jason agreed with the proposal of the 9 rulers. Holding 9 tripods in his hand, he released his energy into them. Suddenly they began to fly into the sky. A thunderstorm rose in the sky, the tripods stood in a circle, and lightning struck inside. Everyone thought that no one had managed to do this for a long time, and they also wondered whether the guy would be able to withstand the heavenly test. Melissa was worried about her husband. The heavens started talking about how it was a spirit. He was talking about the fact that after hundreds of millions of years, someone risked claiming the title of Guardian of the Heavens, when suddenly he saw Jason. Jason looked at the sky and said that he had not seen his old friend for a long time. The spirit asked him if he wanted to become the Guardian of Heaven, to which Jason replied that yes. He asked him, or if there would be any tests. But the spirit was happy, saying that no. He laughed, because now he will have a strong protector. Everyone was surprised, because no one understood how he managed to pass the heavenly test so quickly. A mark began to appear on Jason's forehead. It glowed bright yellow. The guy thought that he felt an unprecedented unity with the entire continent, and that the heavenly will responded to his call without any hesitation. Everyone bowed to him with words of greeting to the new ruler of the 9 regions. Jason told them with a thoughtful look that they shouldn't bow. The system notification began to reward our hero. The guy was delighted. Suddenly May told the young man that they wanted to arrange a welcoming ceremony for him. Melissa watched her husband from the side. Her gaze was sad. She thought about how everything was so wonderful before, why everything had changed. Tears began to appear in her eyes. She thought that all this was really to show off. The girl began to sob. She screamed that she did not understand anything. This evening there were shouts of celebration. Everyone was happy, because today is their 2nd birthday. They were able to repel a powerful attack from the Upper Kingdom. They discussed how strong their elder was and how they didn't mind being pawns in the elder's hands. Everyone was having fun, except Melissa. She sat in the corner and watched what was happening. When suddenly there was a vibration in her pocket, the girl glanced anxiously at her pocket. Taking out the spiritual jade from it, she was surprised. Spiritual jade is a means of communication between immortals. A spiritual stone is worth its weight in gold. The cost exceeds 100,000 gold. Having told her sisters that she would be leaving, she wished them a good rest. After closing the doors, there was a loud bang. The girl, running her finger over the jade, released some kind of force. When suddenly a man appeared, he shouted that he had heard rumors that some shameless people had invaded the lower kingdom right during the tournament. He asked the girl if everything was okay with her. Melissa told him that she was okay, adding her father. When suddenly some woman burst in and threw Melissa's father back. She screamed about what she heard, saying that the girl had finally found a partner. It was Melissa's mother. She was interested in whether the girl would introduce them to him. Melissa's mother began to cry, saying that she could not even imagine that she would then be the ruler of the 9 regions. But Melissa tried to convey to her mother that Jason was not particularly disposed towards her now. Her mother consoled her, saying that it would pass. She told the girl to be more persistent, and that there was no need to be afraid. She also embarrassed her daughter by saying that she could see how dear this guy was to her. Showing her finger up, she said that she was faster than bringing him to them, since they were looking forward to her return. The girl breathed out a sigh of relief. She thought about why everything had changed so quickly. The pillows still smelled of Jason. It brought the girl to tears. It was late night, and the moon was shining all around. The girl slept sweetly, holding her pillow with her hand, which still smelled like our main character. Drunken rulers stood outside our hero's chambers, shouting for him to open it. The guy standing at the door thought that he was used to Melissa being with him all the time, but now being alone is surprisingly uncomfortable. Sitting on the floor, he told the system to provide him with a report. He asked the system how many orb points it would take to cover the entire mountain, to which it replied that it would take 10 million orb points. The guy thought that the territory of the 9 regions has a large area and just random missions are not enough for him. Suddenly, a system notification sounded the alarm that several reincarnations had appeared. The guy, making a face, thought that the system was so worried that he didn't have enough sphere points. So it now became clear to him that the highest score is a function that is responsible for searching for new missions and tasks. Looking at the random mission, he saw that the next tasks were to kill the reincarnation from the upper realm, find the demonic Buddhist sect, and save the old man. He was also thinking about how to deceive the system so that he could re-establish relations with Melissa, when suddenly it dawned on him. The sound of birds was heard. The sun was shining brightly and pleasantly in the sky. On this day, a ceremony was held to welcome the new ruler of 9 regions. May told residents to heed her words and that the era of 9 rulers had come to an end. She said that from today onwards, Senior Jason is the only ruler of the 9 regions. Everyone began to shout joyfully. Brad stood and looked at our main character with contempt. When suddenly Melissa appeared, she shouted that you need to fight for love. She tried to break through the crowd of people. She screamed for Jason not to cut her out of his life, but the crush in the crowd threw her back. Everyone rejoiced at the appearance of the new ruler. The first attempt to approach Jason failed. As Jason was leaving the stage, the girl tried to catch up with Jason again, but the maid who was carrying a jug of water tripped, and the jug flew towards the girl. But Melissa was not taken aback. She gracefully dodged. But when she fell to her feet, she stepped on a banana. The second attempt also failed. Her sisters stood and wondered what was happening to the girl. Finding him at night, she saw Jason walking with May. But the roof of the building collapsed and fell directly on the girl. Melissa failed again. After so many failed attempts, someone called the girl by her name tomorrow. One of her sisters said that she had not seen Melissa alone with the older Jason for a long time. They also added that even they spend more time with him than she did. The second sister laughed, saying that her boyfriend really left her. One of the sisters also added that it is difficult for her to resist him, since the eldest no longer wants Melissa. She does not mind inviting him to play today. When suddenly the girl moved, hitting her sword right at the wall, the girl angrily said that she should not even try, otherwise she would not see that she was her sister. Staring with her eyes, she asked her if she wanted to die as soon as possible. When suddenly Melissa turned around and began to leave, the sisters said after her that they only wanted to joke, and so that she would not be angry with them. When suddenly a pot with some kind of tree fell on Melissa's head, the girl stood in front of the windows of Jason's chambers. She said that she missed him. Her look was anxious. She did not want to lose touch with our main character. She was thinking about what to do, wait for him here or go inside. When suddenly Brad, passing by, noticed her. The guy remembered that Melissa was the elder's woman. The guy got angry, remembering Jason. He wanted to attack her from behind. His gaze seemed sick. The girl felt that someone was approaching behind her. She turned around, but she didn't see anyone around her. She thought that it was her imagination. Breathing out a sigh of relief, she began to leave. Moving further and further away, a small sound was heard. It was our main character. He was holding Brad by the throat. He could not breathe. He tried to scream in pain, because his entire body was covered in divine flame. A few seconds later, not even a speck of dust remained from Brad's body. The system awarded our hero 2,000 points for killing the divine transformation cultivator, when suddenly Jason told the system to return him to his main body. The girl, coming during the day to the chambers of the ruler of 9 regions, saw the guards. They did not let the girl in, saying that they were tired of repeating to her that the ruler was resting and said not to let anyone in. The girl, angry, shouted that if that's the case, then The guys even had time to get scared. They could not understand what she was up to. But they also continued to repeat that the ruler's peace should not be disturbed. The girl sat in the corner. She said that she would just wait for him here until he woke up and wanted to talk to her. The guy sat and cultivated, collecting energy in order to return to his main body. Suddenly he felt a familiar and pleasant smell. Opening his eyes, he realized that he was home. But as soon as he fully woke up, he felt that her whole body was aching, and her body was not listening. He was touching something soft with his hand, and when he turned around, he saw it. That Eva was lying next to him, moaning. Turning in the other direction, he saw Amelia, who through a dream said that she would protect the master. Looking in another direction, he saw Lazy, who also spoke through a dream that the master should not be shy, but rather kiss her. His students slept with Jason. The guy thought for a second that he might still be given an exception, but immediately jumping up, he thought that he had been single for 20 years and it was incredibly difficult for him to find a girl that he would really like, and he would not allow the nasty system to ruin everything. Going outside, he began to check the functionality of the system, saying that now he was not limited by anything. The guy thought that he had been thinking for quite a long time about what could be done so that Melissa's fate would not change for the worse and finally found a solution. One of the functions of all living things allows me to control everything within the unlocked territory. It turns out that the system is also in my hands. He added that he is now using the function of monitoring all living things and will select a task for the system using the highest score. Suddenly something strange began to happen. The system notification seemed to freeze. The guy screamed that its contents would be dictated by him. He added that using the function all living things, control of all living things, the functions of the system are the highest score. Having finished, he put his hand to the system and began to let energy into it, anticipating a response from the system. When suddenly she said that it was completed, Jason screamed joyfully. Putting his hand on the system again, the guy screamed that now there would be a final push. The system notification indicated that the owner Jason had issued a special task to eliminate any negative consequences that could be caused by further contacts between the owner or his clone and Melissa. A reward for completing Jason's gratitude. Penalty for mission failure: return all sphere points spent by the owner for his moral damage. Time limit 10 minutes. The guy stood with a satisfied grin and looked at the system. The system swore at the guy, but he, scratching his ear, said that of course he was a man of high morality. But not that much. He also added that it was better for the system to start doing it quickly. The guy also added that if she hesitates, her little treasure will be his. He said that he could earn 680 billion points. Not far from the mountain of our protagonists, doors from the upper world opened. Opening behind them, a girl appeared. It was Mila. She was talking about how there really is incredibly dense spiritual energy in the lower kingdom. How can an immortal tree even exist here? The girl, having gone in search of the tree, said that she hoped that its owner would be smart and give the tree back, since she quickly wanted to return to the higher kingdom. At this time, the students of our protagonist were still sleeping soundly. At the same time they wanted to grab him, but did not find him. They grabbed, because their master was not there. They shouted in one voice where he was. Jason, hearing this, was even a little happy. The girls flew at breakneck speed. They tried to get out into the street as quickly as possible, but all three tripped over the threshold and fell to the ground. Before Jason could greet them, he was already surrounded by girls. They could not believe that they woke up, because a living master was standing in front of them. Having shouted at them, he asked them if they had come to their senses. They sat and looked at the ground. Amelia was glad that the master had returned. Her eyes filled with tears. She happily hugged the guy, saying that he had finally returned to them. They had been waiting for him for so long. Eva joined her. She said that she missed him very much. She had been waiting for him for a very long time to spend time together. Lazy immediately jumped up. She asked the guy if she could go on the road with his double. She promised him that she would not interfere. But then the guy remembered Melissa. He thought that she would simply chop him into small pieces. When suddenly the guy asked the girls what happened to his clothes, the girls immediately jumped up. They were talking among themselves about what he had found out, and it was the end for them. The guy was embarrassed. He thought that everything was written on their faces. But he was wondering who did this to him. Lazy covered Eve's mouth. Jason stood in a stupor, not understanding what was happening. Amelia immediately ran up, and she and Lazy took Eva. Running away, they shouted that they were about to cook something delicious. The guy still stood in a stupor, not understanding what was going on. He was wondering what happened while he was in a dream. In the evening, the guy decided to take a shower. As soon as he began to undress, someone appeared behind him. It was Eve. She turned to Jason. The guy looked at her thoughtfully. The girl, giving the whip, told the guy that there was poison in her body, and in order to drive it out, the elder had to use it. She asked him to help. The guy reaching for the whip was surprised. He was anxious. The girl thought that she would finally be able to feel these feelings again. Suddenly the guy handed the girl 3 pills. He told her that the first would remove toxins, the second would increase stamina, and the third would strengthen the immune system. He also added that they would taste like candy. Eve thought that the poison trick had failed, but she also thought that she would not give up so easily. Our main character was taking a bath. The guy hadn't relaxed like that for a long time. Lying in the bath, the guy thought that he had not been on his mountain for a long time, so he needed to find out how things were. At this time, joyful cries were heard around the mountain that the elder Jason had returned. Everyone was happy and prepared to meet their elder. At this time, Mila was flying near the mountain of our main character. While flying, she thought that her time in this kingdom was limited and she needed to quickly find a person. Descending into Jason's territory, she crossed his sphere. When suddenly the guy felt the presence of a strong opponent, he immediately realized that this was an immortal from a higher realm. Mila thought that she should interrogate someone to find out the whereabouts of the person who owns the immortal tree. The inhabitants of the mountain, seeing the immortal, became alarmed. The immortal Mila appeared before them, releasing small suppressive pulses of energy in order to scare the inhabitants of the mountain. The girl felt incredibly concentrated spiritual energy. She thought that she was on the right path. Gray screamed that this was the territory of the elder Jason, and it was forbidden to fly here, and she also added that Mila should get out of her elder's mountain. Suddenly the girl screamed that those impudent people, releasing a large amount of energy. This was enough to completely suppress the spirit of Gray and her comrades. They thought that it seemed that the elder Jason had a powerful opponent. The girl said that she was a goddess from a higher kingdom and that she could fly here. She asked them where Jason was. Suddenly some force suppressed her, and began to lift her higher and higher into the air. Wary, the girl thought that someone could really be more powerful than her. Gray and her comrades rejoiced and cried out that the elder Jason was here. He felt the fall and came to help them out. Mila was as surprised as possible. A terrible power came from the chambers at the very top of the mountain. Our main character sat on the roof and watched what was happening. Mila, trembling, thought that this was really the one she was looking for, and she also could not understand the scope of cultivation. She thought that the look and energy instilled fear in her. Looking at Gray and her comrades, she saw a heavenly blessing in them. She thought that they could really become immortal. Our hero's gaze was cold and callous. The more he looked, the more cold he felt. The girl could not understand, if they fought, which of them would emerge victorious. Thinking that it was for the sake of her family, she bowed her head and greeted our protagonist and Gray and her comrades. They told her that she was going to the palace of the Celestials, and the girl flew off. When suddenly the fox elder left her, she said that it was forbidden to fly in this territory. She also added that since she came here, she must adhere to the rules that everyone here follows. Pointing to the stairs, she said that everyone who wants to see their master must express appropriate respect and gratitude, so they must climb these stairs on their own. The girl was surprised. She screamed that this was impossible. She was from a higher kingdom, and she also added that she had never been treated like this before. At this time, Randy ate the divine fruit, saying that everyone should respect the owner. The girl looked closely and saw a divine fruit in his hand. She thought that in the higher kingdom such a fruit was very rare, and this bull had it like nothing else. She did not understand how this was even possible. Having asked him where he got it from, Randy replied that the owner gave it, and also added that everyone had such a fruit. The girl could not contain her surprise, because everyone could have such a precious treasure. The elder stood and laughed at the immortal, who stood and looked at the ground. Walking towards the stairs, she said that she had a few questions that she wanted to ask Jason, so she would go up. As she climbed higher and higher, she thought that Jason was just a monster, wasting such a precious resource on all these pathetic demons. Everyone stood and discussed the fact that previously everyone gave their reading to the highest of the highest kingdom, but with the appearance of the elder, everything was the other way around. The guy was still sitting on the roof of the building and watching what was happening. After some time, the girl went up to the temple. She introduced herself in front of the doors of the temple. Someone told her to enter. Opening the doors, she saw a guy sitting in front of her. The guy asked her why she needed him. She immediately threw some container, saying that this was a valuable treasure for the lower kingdom. The guy immediately rejected the girl's offer. The girl, having caught the container, shouted that it was too much. The guy, smiling, told her that everyone would put up with your unprecedented arrogance. When suddenly the girl bowed down, she was surprised that such pressure could come from a person from the lower realm. She did not understand who he was. The guy told her that he did not need the treasures of the immortals. After some silence, he added to her that she would have to answer several of his questions, and after she answered them, she would receive what she came here for. The girl said in response that he would rather die than give him a ride and let him mock him. Suddenly Amelia ran up to him holding a tray with a whole mountain of divine fruits. She started eating one right in front of Mila. Suddenly the girl changed her mind and said that so be it. He answered to his questions. The guy, looking at Mila with a stupid look, was thinking about why she was throwing such words just a minute ago. Knocking on the table, the guy asked her why immortals from the upper realm kept invading them. The girl, looking at the guy, said that it was obvious, that it was even funny. She told him that most of the inhabitants of the lower kingdom have nothing in common with immortals of her rank. For them they are nothing more than pathetic insects. She talked about some universes and how sooner or later everyone would become tools in their hands to achieve their goals. The guy was thinking that there really were some other continents besides ours. The girl raised her head and added that their land is just a grain of sand in the endless ocean of the universe. Amelia began to get angry, to which Mila, smiling, asked for forgiveness. The guy asked her the next question, why after so many years you still have not managed to achieve what you wanted. The girl began to talk about the immortal king. She said that he delayed the capture of the lower kingdom year after year. She looked thoughtfully at the floor, remembering what was happening. After some time, she began to tell that from year to year she alone broke through the border of the kingdoms, piously kneeling before the monument to the kingdom of the immortals. He let some of his mana into the monument, tens of thousands of years of cultivation, and all the same words. This is all I have left. I pray you pass on this withering, he said. The immortal lords were confused. They believed that the continent had been conquered by another immortal. However, everything's secret becomes clear. The rulers became furious, realizing that this was the work of a man from the lower kingdom. She said that the competition between the immortal worlds was in full swing. The one who so hoped to delay the inevitable for the lower kingdom would eventually be found and killed. The guy was wary. He was not as surprised as before. Suddenly the girl added that it was he who raised followers and created a sect called. After some time, she added the longevity sect. Jason tried to grab the table, his anger filling him. Releasing a colossal amount of energy, he asked her if this was thorough information. The frightened girl said that she despises lies most of all, and this is detailed information. Having calmed down, the guy said that he was fine. The guy thought that if she was to be believed, then the territory of the 9 regions was considered by the highest kingdom as a colony. And now that they had lost their patron, the highest kingdom felt strong and therefore was trying to seize this territory. The guy continued to ask. He asked her why immortals from the upper realm could use half of their power. How much could they release? The girl, looking at him with a stupid look, said that he was annoying. The girl said that she would answer only when he gave her some fruits. The guy looked at her stupidly. Giving her the fruit, she told her to quickly answer his question. The girl answered him that there are many passages between the kingdoms. With the help of a jade token, you can open the gates to the lower kingdoms. But this is a rather long process, about 15 to 30 days. She also added that those he was asking about were immortals from the upper realm who were reborn here. The girl stared at our hero, thinking that she shouldn't say that her family also sent their family members. She also said that now she could only use 20% of her strength. Having finished this, she demanded that Jason give her the rest of the fruit. The guy, smiling, said that he had already given her fruit. The girl was angry. She started screaming because she only received 1 fruit in total, because it was too little. The girl, biting her lip in anger, thought that with 1 fruit it would not be possible to make a pill that would prolong life. The guy reached out to her, saying that if she didn't need the fruit, he could take it. The guy told Amelia to call everyone and let Mealy go. Mila told our main character not to be so smug, because the lower kingdom is always under the close control of immortals. But the guy smiled in response. The girl smiled. She thought that she felt such strong pressure only because she was worried, because no creature from the lower realm could harm an immortal. Suddenly the noise of running began to be heard. His students approached our hero, asking why he had called them all together. The guy, handing out the pill, said that immortals would soon invade them, so he decided to make them immortal too. He also added that he wanted to make immortals who would not be limited by power due to the rules of the lower realm. Mila just smiled, because how could some insects from the lower kingdom become immortal? Because the path to immortality is long and thorny. The guy looked at the girl, his look spoke itself. Jason told them to eat the pills, and also said that the smoldering pill was superior to all created medicines. With its help they would make a breakthrough. Amelia immediately began cultivating. The rest followed her example, also starting to cultivate. The guy thought that he agreed with Mila's words, because it is not so easy for immortals to get up, but also added that as long as they are on his territory, everything is possible. Calling the spirit of Stern, he ordered him to help. He immediately appeared and in a joyful voice said that he would definitely help them. At this time, our heroes were already trying to break through to a new stage of cultivation. Mila was shocked, because a heavenly blessing appeared before her. How is this possible? Can he really make them immortal? The girl thought it was impossible. Streams of energy spread far into the sky, as if the mountain itself had begun cultivation. The standing younger comrades of our heroes were also surprised because they were seeing a heavenly blessing for the first time. They immediately realized that the energy was coming from the palace of the Celestials and this was the work of their master. A crowd had already begun to gather and were peeping. They were watching how their older comrades became immortal. Suddenly lightning struck the guys straight. Amelia commented on her feelings by saying that her body seemed to be being destroyed and reassembled. Everyone was screaming for her to hold on. Emile also felt that her body was filled with energy. When suddenly the gates of immortality appeared, after a few seconds they opened. Everyone cried out in alarm that the gates of immortality had appeared. Mila stood there, covered in sweat, and with her mouth open, thought that this crazy person could really do this. She thought that the power of an immortal from the lower world was simply colossal. The guy held his fist, helping his students with cultivation. When suddenly the gate collapsed, Jason destroyed it. Gritting her teeth, the lady from the upper world said that as far as she knows, no one from the lower kingdom has been able to ascend for 1,000 years, because the conditions are too harsh. She also added that cultivation must reach the peak of the immortal killer realm. The second condition is the cultivation of heavenly blessing. Without it, it will not be possible to make a breakthrough. and heavenly blessing can be cultivated only when a person has fully comprehended all the laws of Tao. After both conditions are met, you will have to experience 99 blows of the voice of the earth, as well as come face to face with your inner demon, and only after this can one ascend to the highest kingdom. But now the power of the lower realm is gradually declining. Reaching the realm of an immortal killer is incredibly difficult, and the remaining spiritual energy is simply not enough to become immortal, the girl thought. She could not understand what realm of cultivation Jason had. Not too far from our protagonist's mountain, a croaking sound was heard. This place was dominated by darkness and despair. The air seemed so heavy that when you inhaled it chilled your whole body. There was a voice in the boy's head that ordered him to capture the ruler of the 9 regions, Jason. The guy stood and smiled, because he felt the approach of a new battle. The guy smiled, but thought that everything was still not enough. Next time he would definitely find a way to further improve the spheres of his students. When Amelia suddenly appeared and seemed to be trying to kiss our protagonist. But at that moment everyone ran towards our protagonist, boasting that they were able to make a breakthrough. At that moment the system rewarded Jason. Everyone was happy, because their strength had increased greatly. Randy stood and said that his ancestors must have turned over in their graves, because he became immortal. Amelia's father wept with happiness, because he had reached the realm of demi-divinity. Everyone praised their master, saying that he was now their god. Mila stood in a stupor from what she saw. She could not understand how this could happen. She thought that if he continues to lead the continent, then all the ideas of the immortals are useless. The guy was happy, because the number of points reached almost 8 million. Mila was still in a stupor. She called our main character. The girl turned away and said that she had no more information. The guy still smiled. The guy told her that he would leave her a couple of fruits, and if she had something to tell him, then she would definitely tell him. She would always be welcome. After these words, the girl became embarrassed. As she flew away, she told him that she understood him. When suddenly the guy remembered that immortals had appeared, he began to smile, because this was a great way to earn sphere points. The guy, leaving 1 million in case a stronger immortal appeared and he had to replace the clone with an improved version, spent the rest of the points. The guy expanded his territory by 56,000 meters. He was almost able to cover the neighboring mountains, but the guy thought that this was too small compared to the 9 regions. When he suddenly remembered the chests, he immediately opened them. He thought that last time he was very lucky with the discovery. By opening them, he will receive 15,000 orb points, as well as a mind-reading card. The guy was shocked by this. He started shouting at the system, saying that it had no conscience. She answered him that issuing prizes from the chests does not depend on her, but everything depends on the luck of the owner. The guy fell into a stupor. Clicking on the map, he said he wanted to see what it was. He thought that this was quite an interesting thing. He was interested in other people's thoughts. The guy heard the vulgar thoughts of his students. The guy thought that his students were crazy, and the chests had gone down the drain. A couple of hours later, the guy returned to his chambers. Lying on the bed, he thought that everyone had begun preparations against the invasion of immortals from the upper kingdom. However, whatever one may say, the lower kingdom still lacks combat power and battle experience. They need to quickly correct the omission. He looked into the beautifully clear sky and thought about how to quickly train everyone. Suddenly he remembered his old man, because if it weren't for him, someone would have killed him long ago. After all, his old man did everything to protect him and the lower kingdom. Remembering his grandfather's face, he wondered if it was worth it. Closing his eyes, the guy said that now he doesn't need to worry about it, because he will take care of everything himself. Suddenly Amelia appeared, saying that breakfast was ready. Pouting, she mumbled that the master had left again. Lazy hugged the heroine, saying that it was strange, because he didn't tell them anything. Amelia said that he 100% had a girlfriend, to which Eve touchingly responded that their master was not like that. Suddenly Amelia screamed that she decided to go after his clone, and see what he was doing there. Eve also shouted that she agreed with her, and therefore was going with her. Jason no longer heard this, because he was already moving into the body of his clone. It was raining outside, the weather was cloudy, and the wind was blowing. The palace guards stood and discussed the fact that a very persistent girl was standing in front of them. The men thought that until she left, they would not be able to transfer their post. Suddenly the door opened and someone came out from behind it. It was our main character. The guards were alarmed, because they thought that they had woken up their ruler by screaming. The guy was surprised to see Melissa. He didn't think that she would sit and wait for him. He asked her whether she had not been waiting for him all night. The girl, smiling, replied that she had just arrived, and she also asked her if they could talk. The guy told her to follow him to his chambers. Not far from the capital of the 9 regions, there was a small trading town. Brother and sister were discussing something very joyfully. The little girl said that she believed in her brother, and that with his talent he would succeed. There was an ominous stomp. Some guy walked and talked about how this body was unable to accept his demonic abilities. He also talked about how this body was about to collapse. He needed to find a new vessel. The boy walked and talked about how his body was rejecting him because he had killed the parents of the previous owner. The young man stood and thought that a rather strong child was standing in front of him. Since at such a young age he was already able to reach the realm of purification, he has incredible talent. Spiritual energy is tearing him apart. But looking at his clothes, one can conclude that he cannot afford the drug, so the young man handed it to him, saying that he would exchange it for some bun. The reincarnation began to laugh. The boy and girl were surprised, because they could not understand why he was laughing. But the reincarnation thought that he had found an excellent vessel for him. Screams were heard and some liquid could be heard flying around. He killed a boy and a girl, taking the boy's body for himself. The young man thought that he would soon destroy Jason and capture the continent of 9 regions. We returned to the capital of the 9 regions. Our main character gazed at Melissa's body. He noticed that her clothes were all wet. The girl seemed tired. The guy grabbed her hand, shouting that she was all wet and could get sick at this rate. He pulled her along with him. He led her into the font. The water was pleasantly warm and there was a little steam in the air. The girl stood in the water wearing nothing but cloth. She was a little embarrassed. The guy told her not to worry, because only he and she were here. The girl twitched. At this moment, the guy was thinking that an immortal sphere of purification had appeared. But he sighed heavily, because he had to grow up more so that our main character would earn as many sphere points as possible. The system also provided him with detailed information about the reincarnated. Most of these creatures are the reincarnation of immortals from the upper realm. They receive orders to be reborn in different worlds in order to eventually capture them. They do not lose their old memory. Some of them are chosen ones, those who may become immortal venerable in the future. There are also those who simply wish to improve their cultivation, and of course there are those who are forced. The girl told our guy about her dream, which ended with her death in some wilderness. The guy told her to calm down, because, fortunately, in reality everything is not like that. Getting up from the water, she said that she would now say something important to our main character. After a few minutes of silence, she said that it was very difficult for her without his support. Now she felt it like never before. She also added that she would have very warm feelings for him. She asked him to give her the clothes. Jason shyly handed them over. Suddenly the girl slipped and began to fall. Our hero immediately went to catch the girl so that she wouldn't get hurt. They splashed into the water. The sound was loud. Getting to their feet, they looked at each other with confused eyes. But after a while they began to laugh joyfully. The guy asked her if this could be considered their reconciliation. The girl replied that yes, and she pulled closer to our main character, trying to kiss him. Our hero did not turn away, and also waited for the kiss. When suddenly a system appeared that announced a random mission, the guy got angry. But the girl did not stop and kissed her lover. The guy was a little shocked. The girl with a serious look told our hero that they had a lot to catch up on. The guy answered, embarrassed, of course. The guy hugged her, telling her that as soon as he finished his business, he would immediately return to her. She answered him, embarrassed, that she would be waiting for him very much. Rivers of blood seemed to flow down someone's legs. Drop after drop fell to the ground, painting the sky scarlet. The guy hanging on the cross said that this sacrifice was for the sake of his master. The reincarnation of Perfecto was flying in the sky and laughing very loudly. Suddenly something began to happen. It seemed that the earth was about to start taking off. The young man, smiling, said that everything was ready, all that was left was to wait. Suddenly a flying ship appeared in the sky. Its speed was incredibly high. Our main character was flying to this ship. The system had already warned him that he was approaching an immortal. Our hero said that he had always felt the aura of death in this city, so he was not surprised that the immortal appeared right here. Perfecto began to cultivate, and some image from cultivation began to appear behind him. In an instant, the flying ship was destroyed. Naturally, our hero managed to dodge. He thought that the attack was at the level of an immortal soldier. When suddenly the guy saw a silhouette behind the immortal, he at first did not understand what it was. But after taking a closer look, he said that it is neither a Buddha nor a demon, and this thing actually has the power comparable to the power of an immortal, but the cultivation sphere of a reincarnate is still quite weak. Perf laughed and welcomed his new vessel. After hearing this, our guy lit up, also greeting, as he put it, the little lamb. Our main character stood and looked at the immortal with a grin in his eyes, telling him that he was quite brave. The immortal thought that Jason was in no hurry to act. Therefore, he acted first, trying to attack our main character. It was the attack of 1,000 arms that consumed souls. All the attacks reached our main character. The roar from the impact was so loud that the ground even shook and thick dust rose. Perfecto said that it was too easy. He thought that Jason was much stronger. But then he was surprised. He saw something incredible. Our main character stood absolutely unharmed. His grin shone brighter than the stars, showing his middle finger. He said that he would now show a real attack. The immortal smiled, saying that he was glad that he did not die from one blow. Crying out that Jason would not survive this attack, he attacked him again. The guy mocked the immortal, telling him that with such attacks he shouldn't say that he was immortal, because he would be laughed at. The members of the 9 regions stood and watched what was happening. Everyone realized that the master was fighting an immortal, because the energy fluctuations were huge. All this happening was also observed by the rest of the immortals who were reborn. They talked about how they would not be able to compete with him again. After all, in this territory, his strength reaches the immortal emperor. The green-haired immortal said that today the ruler of the 9 regions will fall. The guy looked at the fight in surprise, saying that in the hands of Perfecto all the inhabitants would become just food for him. The battle continued. Attack after attack was inflicted by Perf on our main character. There was a loud rumble, and the palms of his cultivation touched. One of the immortals had already begun to fly away, indicating that the battle ended in favor of the immortal Perfecto. But then the green-haired girl screamed for them to look carefully. Jason stood completely unharmed, one arm behind his back. He stopped the immortal's powerful attack with just one finger, after which he immediately released his cultivation through it. The immortal stood surprised. They could not believe that some person could so easily destroy the immortal emperor. The bloody Buddha was destroyed with just one attack. The immortal stood and discussed the strength of our protagonist, comparing it to divine and even higher. The guy stood and watched what was happening. The immortal hive talked about how she made Jason her slave in the first place. The system awarded our main character 500,000 points for killing the bloody Buddha. The guy was surprised that he could also get a reward for the summoned demon. The guy again began to taunt the immortal, telling him that his strength was simply incredibly small. But he stood and smiled. He said that he had more than one demon in stock. He summoned the demon of hatred. His power far surpassed that of the bloody Buddha. His face was pleased, because he had been waiting for a battle and a strong opponent for so long. He immediately attacked our main character as soon as he appeared. The guy, without having time to react to the blow, was attacked with all the power of the demon. The demon laughed, saying that he killed him. Even the spirit dissipated. But Perfecto cried out in alarm, talking about what was above. But it was too late. Our main character attacked him. Having said that one blow with one leg would be enough, the guy laughed, releasing a little of his energy. The demon flew several meters away, hitting the ground several times, raising pillars of dust. Immortal Perfecto did not stop, but began to summon the next demon. A huge 2-headed demon appeared, screaming with joy of battle. Perfecto was consumed by some kind of force. He seemed to be losing control over himself. He screamed for the demon to kill him as quickly as possible. Jason began cultivating, laughing and talking about how it was time to call it a day. A mighty heavenly dragon appeared behind him. The guy told Perfecto to quickly summon someone else. The immortal stood in despair. It seemed that even he was overcome by fear of the strength of our protagonist. Raising his head as high as possible, the guy told the dragon forward. A huge column of dust rose. The impact radius was enormous. Jason held Perfecto by the hair. He could not answer him in any way. Our main character smiled. He told Perf that he was standing right in front of him, and he couldn't even kill him. Our hero called him a disgrace to the immortals. The guy continued to mock the immortal emperor. Jason began to gather cultivation right in his hand. Having hit him, he told him to feel what it was like to be treated like a dog. The immortal hit the ground several times, His blood scattered in different directions, and he coughed in pain. Placing his foot directly on the immortal's face, Jason continued to taunt him, telling him that how could such a piece of trash even dare to fight him one-on-one. An explosion occurred, fragments of the earth scattered in different directions. The blood of the immortal covered the earth, walls and everything adjacent. After some time, the explosion repeated. Our main character held the immortal by the throat, squeezing him. He said that he was so pathetic that no one even tried to help him. However, Perfecto smiled and said that he underestimated him, but his goal was achieved. Having finished burning, he said that they would definitely meet again, and that Jason should not relax, because next time he would be finished. The guy thought that the Guardian did not appear. This really interested him. He also thought that such chaos in the lower world was due to his small power. What would have happened if he had appeared with his full power? The guy, smiling, thought that it was a pity that the system for the reborn had so few sphere points. The guy was thinking about how to gather all the reborn in one place in order to deal with them all at once. When suddenly a cloudiness appeared in his eyes, it seemed that all the strength left his body, and it weakened. The young man could not even move. He froze in one position. When suddenly he got a headache. At that moment he thought that his oppressive aura was felt by all those reincarnated who were hanging around, and those three were forced to retreat because they were inferior to him in strength. When suddenly he heard alarming screams calling him. The guy fell sharply to the ground. His strength completely left him. He thought that immortals were really strong, because he had almost exhausted all his strength, barely being able to defeat him. He also added that he hopes no one will attack in the near future, because he needs to restore his strength. A guy ran up to him, anxiously asking about his condition. Making a stern face, he told him that he was almost okay, but still he didn't have enough strength. Carrying his ruler on his back, the guy shouted for someone to help quickly, because the ruler was seriously wounded. The immortals who watched the battle also all discussed the incredible strength of the insect from the lower world. They also talked about how they had no chance in a one-on-one fight. Gigi said that they needed to join forces. Some people watched the screams of the guy who was carrying the ruler, laughing. Gigi also added that by uniting they could easily defeat Jason and be able to capture the continent of 9 regions. Wendy said that they need to be careful, because many immortals have already been defeated by him. Hive added that in the fight against such an opponent you need to rely on more than just strength. Gigi asked her if she had a better plan, to which the girl replied with a lustful look that men are all the same. At this time, silence reigned in the upper kingdom. Everyone screamed that Mrs. Mila had returned. They joyfully said that they were sure that the girl had brought divine fruit. She recalled what she had seen. She still could not understand how Jason was able to make his students immortal, although there is not so much energy in the lower kingdom. She also added that if the forces are enough to be reborn in another world, then they should be enough to capture it. After all these worlds are trophies of the immortals. Entering the head's chambers, she immediately greeted her, holding out the divine fruit, saying that she had brought the fruit of immortality. She immediately pulled him to her, asking why there was only one. The head did not understand, because a whole tree grows in the lower kingdom, and the girl could only bring one. But Mila immediately and anxiously asked to listen to her, sweat running down her face out of fear. She talked about how she saw how, in just a few minutes, Jason was able to turn 2 people into immortals and force 4 others to make breakthroughs. She also added that when she met him, she tried to force him to kneel. But not only was he not afraid, but he even allowed his subordinates to behave ignorantly. The head stood and was shocked. She listened carefully to Mila's story. The head began to descend to Mila, saying that she could not even imagine what such a powerful person from the lower world could find in the territory of the 9 regions. She also added that now the society of immortals is turbulent, and their family should not become an easy target, so she will have a special task for Mila. She talked about how Jason finally gave her the fruit. This proves that you made a good impression on him, so she should return to the nether realm and find a way to get more. And secondly, they lost contact with the best reincarnated. She needed to find him. Mila received the Guardian's seal. The seal had to react to the person she needed. The girl immediately replied that she would definitely complete the task and would not let her leader down. The subordinate ran and asked what was wrong with His Majesty, to which he replied that his reincarnation in the lower kingdom had died. Spitting blood, Perfecto said that he would definitely return and finish with Jason no matter what the cost. His subordinate was shocked by what he heard, because his strength has no equal, especially in the lower kingdom. But he continued to repeat that the ruler of 9 regions would soon come to an end. After a few seconds, he said that he wanted to be reborn in his real body and kill him. But the subordinate answered tremblingly that this was impossible, because it was very dangerous. Because if he died in the lower kingdom in a real body, then the body in the upper kingdom would die. He tried to dissuade his ruler, but he told him that without his real body he did not even have a chance against the ruler of the 9 regions, Jason. He also added that his cultivation sphere is an immortal commander. He is invincible in the lower realm. Coming closer, the ruler added that his subordinate was too limited in his judgment. He said goodbye to him. Leaving, he said that he would achieve his goal. He thought that when he became a candidate for Immortal Venerable, these old men would recognize that he was worthy of taking the throne. Everyone was discussing rumors that the ruler had run out of strength and, in order to protect the continent, he wanted to marry one of the immortals. Absolutely everyone discussed this. Everyone added to the rumors as best they could. Suddenly one of the girls screamed that he was just wounded, but he was not dead. They immediately began to run away, telling her that she needed to speak more quietly about such things. At this time, Jason was in his chambers replenishing his strength through meditation. The guy had 2,700,000 sphere points on his account. He thought that 60,000 meters was not enough to cover the territory of 1,000 mountains. When suddenly he heard some noise outside his doors. He thought that someone was watching him. At that time someone was moving on the street. This man was saying that he couldn't find Jason's room. The guy was lying there and talking about how this was a great opportunity. The man was still looking for the ruler's chambers. The guy looked out the window and thought about how quickly he would climb up to him. Closing his eyes, he thought that he had finally managed to hook a big fish. This man was standing right in front of Jason. The guy could barely restrain himself, because someone was touching him. Crying out that the reincarnated thought too highly of themselves, he grabbed her hand, and he threw him straight onto the bed, screaming that he was finished. But suddenly the guy stopped. There was no end to his surprise. He asked Melissa why she was here. The girl was lying on the bed, embarrassed. She told him that she heard that the ruler was seriously wounded, and there were a lot of guards outside, so she decided to climb up to him through the window. She anxiously asked him where it hurt. She began to feel him. The guy embarrassedly shouted that he was not as weak as they thought he was. But she continued to insist. She said that she would check everything herself and began to undress our main character. But suddenly she stopped. She saw something she had not seen before. She became even more embarrassed. The guy said that he was fine with it. It just all happened unexpectedly. He told her that he was very glad that she was worried about him. The girl asked him if he wanted to retire in the bridal room. She still continued to look between the legs of our protagonist, embarrassed. The guy began to squeeze her cheeks, saying that he was glad to see her. Melissa asked him if they could at least talk a little, because he always risks his life without thinking about the future. When suddenly screams were heard from behind the doors, Melissa asked him whether he was reborn. When suddenly she jumped up and crawled under the bed, telling him that if he needed help, he should call her. The guy thought that he knew that some immortals were watching him, and he already had a plan to destroy them. Suddenly May burst into the chambers, still anxiously repeating whether the ruler was okay. He ran right up to him. She said that she would examine him right away. Melissa saw little, but heard everything. There was no end to her anger. She thought that she was too pushy, and she needed to quickly finish touching her husband. Meanwhile, Hive was watching them. She did not understand what was happening there. She thought that he even forced his wife to hide under the bed and watch him and his mistress engage in all sorts of obscene things. May exhaled easily. The guy didn't understand what was happening, and also didn't understand how he could explain himself to his wife, who was lying under the bed. The guy told her that she definitely has a talent for putting people in an awkward position, because everyone might misunderstand their relationship, to which she replied that she didn't care about rumors. She also added that she doesn't care what happens on the continent. For her now the most important thing is Jason's condition. She also said that tonight she would stay with him and protect his peace. Melissa, who was lying under the bed, thought that she was about to burst with jealousy. The young man told her not to worry and to return to her place. The guy looked at her intently. He thought that May was the first to support him. She was the one who united all the rulers and nominated him for the ruler of 9 regions. But he knows practically nothing about her, and cannot say what their relationship is. He couldn't understand whether it was good or bad that she cared about him like that. Suddenly, a system notification said that the owner should be vigilant, because there were reincarnated people nearby. At this time, Hive stepped on some branch and a crash was heard. She immediately tried to run away, thinking that she needed to get away quickly, because he had heard. She thought that their plan would not be effective, because Jason was pretending to be weakened, when suddenly our main character appeared in front of her, saying good evening to her. The immortal was shocked, because she did not expect him to react so quickly. Gigi immediately attacked Jason. She said what she said right away, that her plan wouldn't work. She screamed that the guy was finished, but he dodged away smiling, saying that they were attacking him very boldly. Wendy said that this opportunity would no longer exist, and that they should attack with full force. Hive supported her, also starting to cultivate her. She said that the guy was really handsome, but, unfortunately, she had to kill him. Cultivated Gigi followed them, saying that this blow would decide everything. The guy had already completed his cultivation and, smiling with a cold gaze, looked at the actions of the immortals. The divine dragon appeared and a roar sounded.